Best Ball Breakfast is back. We have 4 hours of best ball drafts on tap today. We are going to get in a solo draft. Last week when we hopped in, the contest had not launched, but I'm going to get a solo draft in. Then we'll, of course, have Pat Kerrane. We'll have Mike Leone. And our special guest today, none other than Underdogs, Hayden Winks. Buckle up for 4 hours of drafting. I'm Pete Overzet. This is Best Ball Breakfast. Let's go. It really isn't that hard, guys. You just go top 2, win it, win it. Okay, I think we can be done here at running back. You only have 3 running backs. This roster is littered with game theory, arbitrage, exploits, and theoretic reasoning. Bro, light mode, my eyes, dude. I don't know. I prefer that move more in a time box contest. Bro, have you ever scrolled so far down that, like, there's no more names, bro? Don't do drugs, kids. Draft and drive instead. You can't have it both ways, dude. Quid pro quo. All right, GMs all around. We are in a Best Ball Mania draft. This is the 30-second clock. We got a few more spots here if you want to come and join us. I know some of the Discord peeps have already gotten in. Been drafting when I get in on my own time, you know, go for a little cardio club walk, something along those lines. I'm doing the 20-second drafts, but we'll keep the 30-second drafts here for on stream. GMs all around. How are we doing? Juan says, excited to spend the next few hours watching a man drink coffee and click buttons. Well, when you put it that way, yeah. Holy cow. This is how I'm just learning that today is Cinco, aka Drinko de Mayo. Holy cow. I didn't even realize. Well, happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone here today. Chris was told there would be best ball drafts. Guess what, brother? You are in luck. 4 of them on tap. The GMs are flowing. Kendrick is feeling serviced as an audio listener. You love to hear it. Yeah, let's get some coffee going here right off the rip. I have not had any coffee this morning yet, so I am excited for this first coffee pour. All right, there we go. We got the 1-7 in this draft. I have been exclusively doing my Best Ball Mania drafts on stream. You know, I've been getting in some in, you know, the other side contests as well, you know, little puppies, little schnauzers here, but Best Ball Mania drafts have been exclusively on stream. I'm not officially committing to streaming all 150, but I'm pretty sure it's going to end up that all 150 are in some form of video or live streamed content. So this is number 6 here. I'll go ahead and get the appropriate banner up so we can keep track of these. And yeah, that what a world that there is now so many opportunities to stream and make content of drafts that I don't even actually have to commit to streaming them all and still think I'll probably get there. I think that's just how it's going to work. All right. We have Chase, Jefferson, Bijan, Barkley, Lamb, Gibbs, go. Nothing too shocking there. I'm going to go ahead and grab Puka here. Genty, I think, is a fine pick. We have seen his ADP move up pretty quickly. You know, at least from where you were able to get him in the big board pretty reliably at the 1-2 turn. He's now locked and loaded here at 1-8. Can't complain there. Wouldn't fault anyone for grabbing him there as early as, you know, 1-5, 1-6. But I think I am still somewhat scarred and somewhat cautious in these streamed piss boy rooms here. Keaton's liking the tank. Yeah, I just am starting to turn over my closet, putting all my sweatshirts away, pulling out the tank tops, and had to get the I Love Wide Receivers tank, which is available in the store. I need to work on some designs, some new designs. I feel like the store needs some new stuff here. So we'll see what kind of inspiration we get as Best Ball Summer progresses. You know, we've have the value hounds. We got our I Love Wide Receiver. We got our Best Ball Breakfast tanks, but I feel like it's time for some new designs here. Wow, Nick is fired up about the Eliminator. He's going to go from 0 entries last year to maxing it this year. Nez and I did a show about the Eliminator last week on Off and On the Clock. You can find that show on this channel. The audio is also up on the In a Vacuum podcast feed. But Nez and I had a fun time talking through the strategy for that contest. And the thing that's unique this year is all of the matchups outside of week 1, which is 6 of 12 advance, and week 17 is a 3-person final. Every single other matchup is just a head-to-head matchup. I've seen some people complain about it. Some people absolutely love it. I think it's cool from a sweat perspective. We're on the clock here. Drake London looks like our best available. Have no problem with that. Falls a couple picks past ADP here. So Puka and Drake London to start this squad here on this fine best ball breakfast morning. AZ Mountain Man here saying Last of Us is pretty good. I'm always a little behind on Last of Us. I generally get to it middle of the week. I'm enjoying it too. The episode a couple weeks ago. I won't do any spoilers here for people who are behind like me as well. But yes, I'm enjoying it. Although I will say, tonight we will watch the rehearsal with our available TV watching time after April goes to bed before Last of Us. I am already absolutely hooked on this season of the rehearsal through 2 episodes. And so that gets prime billing from me. But then I'll get to Last of Us tomorrow. Yeah, just a little light value hounding here in the draft. Just the tamest of awoos. Fatty McFats, Best Ball Breakfast always makes the Monday. Love to hear it. I enjoy it too. It's a nice starter for the week. Know exactly what I'm doing. Sets the tone. What's up, Tyler? Manly Moose loves London's upside this year. Saints and Panthers defenses are looking rough. Oh yeah. Look at this. We're only the schedule is coming out May 14th, right? So today is May 5th, 9 more days, and we don't even have to, do divisional matchups as hypotheticals. We'll actually know where these matchups are taking place. Can't wait for that. All right, what do we got cooking here? Chase Brown, who has moved up. I feel like every single time I'm streaming a draft, I'm taking Chase Brown. I think I've taken him in this is what, my 6th draft? I think this will be my 4th Best Ball Mania share of Chase Brown, but let's just do it. Let's just play the hits. The assumption here for me, you look at where the rankings are, where the momentum is. I do think we'll see Chase Brown slowly move up to this kind of 2-3 turn as the summer progresses. I don't think it's going to be, he's going to jump DJ Moore. Would not be surprised to see him jump JSN. Maybe Josh Jacobs holds court ahead of him. He can jump Marvin Harrison. He can bump Tyreek Hill. This is a weird draft where Terry McLaurin goes at the 1-2 turn. So I envision Chase Brown moving up. So I'll continue to take him here in the middle of the 3rd. And we start Puka, Drake London, and Chase Brown. Demo already maxing the Schnauzer. Look at that. Yeah, what is that? The 20 max? It's a 20 max? Yeah, what's the fill rate on that is already cooking there pretty good. Yeah, it crossed my mind the Adams stack with Puka. My kind of thought on that stuff, and I have no problem with that double stack at cost, but I do want to continue to kind of target the players I think are going to rise right now, where I think Devontae Adams ADP will be fairly stable throughout the summer. I feel like that Puka and Devontae Adams double stack is going to be there. I can't really envision Devontae Adams becoming, a 2nd round pick where that becomes hard to pull off. All right, let's see here. You know what? I have not done a lot of elite quarterback. It doesn't seem to fall natural to me, but in honor of value hounding here, we didn't get, a McBride or Bowers. So let's pull the elite quarterback here with Lamar Jackson at pick 42. He falls 6 picks past ADP. So we start Lamar, Chase Brown, Puka, and Drake London there. And we'll see what this does for our team. I'm excited to talk to Hayden. I was looking at some of his ranks before the stream, and we'll draft off of his ranks when he pops on. I know he's really high on the elite quarterbacks this year, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, he has Lamar ranked 24th in his ranks. So getting Lamar here at 42, that'll be a conversation we can continue with Hayden when he comes on at 1 Eastern. Yeah. John says, where's the question I was saying here? Yeah. Do we expect the ADPs to move significantly in the next 9 days to justify the CLV bump being worth the lack of bring backing? I'm not going to lie, sir. This question is kind of breaking my brain right now. I don't entirely know what you're asking. Yeah, I assume you mean double stacking with Adams and Puka. Hard to do bringbacks now without the schedule. But yeah, I mean, I always think like when I'm drafting, what is the edge we can press, or what is something that's an advantage? What is something that later drafters are not going to have access to? And I do think it's getting ahead of some of this projectable running back volume. When the projections come out for season-long stuff throughout the middle of the summer, you're going to see guys like Chase Brown move up because he's just going to project really well. When we go to set our weekly lineups, when you look at DFS, he is going to be, a 7,500 running back on DraftKings. He's going to project as a top 10 running back. And I think that stuff trickles over into the best ball ADP. All right, let's see what we want to do here. Basically looking at a lot of running backs. I don't have a problem with that. We'll go ahead and grab Joe Mixon. We'll just keep doing some light value hounding here. Joe Mixon, another guy, kind of falls into that same bucket as a draft winner. Did not get much competition at all. Although maybe Hayden will disagree. I know he's a big Woody Marks guy as a USC alum, so we'll talk to him about Woody Marks a bit. But like the spot for Joe Mixon here. And we'll lock up 2 running backs here who are going to project for a ton of work. Chase Brown, Joe Mixon, Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Puka and Drake London at wide receiver. And we will see if we can survive with 3 non-wide receiver picks through 5 rounds. What's up, Fantasy Football Garage? Becoming a YouTube member. I did a show on Saturday night with Greg Banos, a.k.a. the Coach Speak Index. If you are a YouTube member, in the Value Hounds tier, you get access to those premium shows. I do those once a week, generally on Friday or Saturday evening, exclusively for the YouTube members. Had a really fun conversation, both picking his brain about some of his most interesting Coach Speak nuggets that he gleaned from those post NFL draft press conferences. So there's some really good stuff in there. And then we also just talked about his business, his Discord, how things have been going for him, the content plans. I really like Greg. I think he does some awesome work over there at Coach Speak Index. So if you are a YouTube member, take advantage of that. Thank you, Bindles. As always, very generous. Gifting out a Memby here to someone in the chat. I can't see here on StreamYard who was the recipient of this, but make sure you thank Bindles there. One of the good guys out there. Chris G flexing his 36-month badge here. 3 years as a member on the channel. Says he's old. Yes, you are, sir. Yes, you are. All right. I need to get back on track and grab a wide receiver here. We can do Tyler Shucks, number 1 wide receiver, Chris Olave. Man, it never feels fun clicking Chris Olave, and yet when we think the discount we're getting on his ADP relative to previous years where we were drafting him in the 2nd round, yeah, I don't have a big issue with Chris Olave at these prices, especially when he's going ahead of Matthew Golden, or he went behind Matthew Golden here, went behind Chris Godwin. Deebo Samuel went at pick 56. Roma Dunze went at pick 54. I don't have too many concerns about Chris Olave at that price. I guess the concerns are the typical stuff. The offense, completely, bottoms out, and there just isn't a ton of production to go around. But it's not like Derek Carr was some incredible quarterback, that Chris Olave was completely dependent on. Kind of feels like Chris Olave was always producing, in spite of Derek Carr. So Yeah, Chris Olave there when you need some wide receiver catch up at 66. I'm not opposed. Man, everyone's trying to get into deep conversations before we even have the schedule. An entire season of DFS Sims avoided bringbacks. Why are we okay avoiding them in DFS but prioritizing them in best ball? They're different games, and if you haven't read the Mike Leone manifesto about why Week 17 correlation can improve your chances to win, I definitely recommend checking that out. But yeah, I think we'll table that conversation for a later day. We don't have to get into a bringback debate until people are actually forcing bringbacks too much, and then we can start to have that conversation, and you can hear me say use it as a tiebreaker a million times. It'll be a great time this summer. What's up, Nick? Yes, you are old as well at 43 months. All right, let me make this pick, and then we will get back to business. This is going to be another wide receiver pick for me here. Don't need to do a running back here. TJ Hawkinson is interesting, but I think on this team where I have two running backs and a quarterback, I'll probably keep pushing quarterback. So then the question is just, what do I want to do here? Shakir Burden is fun. I think we'll just do Shakir here. For some reason, he's always like a boring pick to me. I don't really have anything bad to say about him. I think he is probably pretty likely to pay off this ADP. The Bills did nothing in the draft to address wide receiver. Don't tell Mr. Bean that, though. He will go off on you like he did on those local Buffalo radio announcers. But yeah, I just never get excited clicking Khalil Shakir. But I guess on a team like this where I don't have as much high-end wide receiver firepower, didn't go full piss boy, full zero RB, Shakir is a fine wide receiver 4 here. Shorty says Olave's price is if he's another concussion away from no more football. Yeah, it's I think there's some nice discounts in that range. Jalen Waddle is another guy, who we were completely happy drafting in the second round, partly because of the massive contingent upside that he has in scenarios where Tyreek is hurt or, something crazier than that off the team somewhere else. And so you have kind of a couple outs there. Jalen Waddle can deliver spike weeks. He's talented. He would be an alpha when Tyreek Hill misses. And now you're not having to pay a second round premium for that kind of contingent upside. So, it's a little different with Olave's situation. There's definitely more stability with the Waddle stuff. So I understand why Olave is going after Waddle, but I do just in general like buying kind of the swing dips on those guys that we've already kind of collectively priced as elite talents. Let's go ahead and do Hawkinson here. I feel like the theme of this draft is me just doing some light value hounds. I did consider him at the last pick. I have selected Josh Downs a lot in this range. I think there is a bit of a wide receiver cliff after Josh Downs, but we get Hawkinson sliding a bit. I think he still can give us that, single week, spike week upside that we want from the tight end position there. And I think with some of these rookies and some of these guys in the early hundreds, we can come back and get a wide receiver 5 and still be fine there. And, it's always nice. I'm an elite tight end slappy. So when I miss Bowers, when I miss McBride, when I miss Kittle, I still like getting, guys in this range who do have the ability to put up 25 plus in a given matchup, and Hawkinson certainly does. This team is getting rave reviews from Jackson. We will see what our resident grader Steph has to say, though. What is up, Imwald? Lutz says drafting hella BBM teams before the schedule comes out is just unprotected stacks. Everyone does it. You just need to be careful with your exposures. I guess that is true, Lutz. I guess that is cruel. Yes, we are raw dogging it here. Man, Manly Moose says, gotta hope for a Coleman breakout. I assume referencing Keon Coleman. I mean, that would be cool. I'd be happy for him. Nothing we saw in year one, though, indicated that is going to be the case. That's the thing I struggle with these Bills. I mean, Khalil Shakir really is the only one in that offense who has shown a consistent ability to earn targets. I mean, the opportunities available for both Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid, and we can come up with a million excuses. Lord knows there's people within this community among us who are willing to make excuses for those guys. But I would rather make bets elsewhere. I mean, there were stretches last year in the playoffs where Mac Hollins was the best wide receiver, best pass catcher outside of Khalil Shakir on that offense. The offense was James Cook, Khalil Shakir, and Mac Hollins at times. So I'm a big believer in the second year breakouts, buying the bump on some of those guys, but I do not know if Coleman is the one who's going to do that for us. All right. This is going to be a running back pick here for me. Even though we need wide receiver, there's just not much here that is interesting to me. I think I'm going to go Cam Skattebo here, a guy I'm still pretty excited about. I want to continue to see where the Pacheco stuff shakes out. He definitely was an undeniable draft winner, but I'm still a little spooked there. I will happily take Skattebo over Pacheco for now, get him at pick 103. I was actually thinking about the Skattebo Tyrone Tracy stuff earlier. I was just daydreaming about the Giants backfield. I guess that's what happens to us, right? Like all of your empty thoughts are just filled with thinking about the dumbest things. And for me, it recently was Cam Skattebo and Tyrone Tracy. And I was thinking about how the Skattebo pick is just so bad for Tracy, in that what it signals to us and how the Giants feel about Tracy and the things that Tracy did well and what he didn't do well. Like Tracy, for all of the, explosiveness, his actual success rate, how he was as a runner, left a lot to be desired. And then you bring in someone like Cam Skattebo, who is really efficient in short yardage scenarios, to be the guy that they can trust in those kind of situations. I think that is very bullish for Skattebo. I think it's bullish for him having the goal line work, the short yardage work, a lot of the work in situations where, even third down situations where they want to be able to trust him in pass protection. I think we're going to see Tracy relegated to more of a change of pace role. And maybe it's a little slow. Maybe it takes a few weeks, a month or so for Cam to take that over. But I do think Cam Skattebo is going to lead that backfield. And if it's improved this year, which it should be, I'm pretty excited about what that could mean. And I have no problem kind of paying that price for him. Man, there's still just not like a single wide receiver on the board. God damn it. Keon Coleman sitting here. This is a tough spot as far as how much do I want to continue to play fast and loose at wide receiver. I'm going to go ahead and grab Tootin right now, another guy I'm continuing to try to load up on. And I think on this team where I have Chase Brown and Joe Mixon, I can afford to take some rookie cracks. But man, we are going to we're going to have to hammer wide receiver here. I'm trying to think back of where I should have grabbed a wide receiver. The Hawkinson pick, I guess even then the Hawkinson or Downs, I guess that was a decision. But man, I do not like this stretch here, especially in a draft like this, where like Jaden Higgins goes 93, Trey Harris goes 100, to my guy Bull in a China shop. Normally those guys have been the kind of ports in a wide receiver avalanche storm, if you will, where I feel good about their prices, but not in this room. So we're going to have to get creative, folks. We're going to have to get creative. Yeah, Keon kind of sucks. I mean, I guess I'll take him here if he comes back to 127, but I think he does suck. The whole point, even as a prospect, we were kind of like, Keon Coleman probably sucks, but he has this big bodied frame. that we're watching him in OTAs and they're, forcing him looks in the end zone. And you're like, I could see how this could work. My comp for him all along was like, could he give us a Kelvin Benjamin season where it's like the guy's not good. He doesn't get separation, but he's big and the team forces him the ball in the red zone as a rookie. You're in a really good offense with a good quarterback. Could he fall into 8 touchdowns or something? That's kind of what I thought the bet was with Keon Coleman. And he wasn't even good enough for us to do that. And partly because of just how they operate in the red zone, right? Like there's not a lot to go around when you have James Cook leading the league in rushing touchdowns and you have Josh Allen as one of the biggest touchdown vultures in the league. So it just did not break right for Keon Coleman. And I just don't even think he has the skill set to take advantage of that or kind of even have a breakout. And there he goes at pick 123. I've not done a weekly winners draft yet. I think we're going to do a sprint draft on Off and On the Clock tomorrow. All right. Let's see. I'm actually oddly sweating a pick to come to me here at pick 127. We'll see what Pugfather does. Although with 6 wide receivers, famous last words, Pugfather should probably turn to another position. I'm going to go ahead and grab Rashod Bateman here. Slight value. I need a wide receiver badly, and I, of course, have Lamar Jackson. So I don't get a ton of Rashod Bateman, or at least I haven't so far. But on this team, makes a ton of sense to be able to get Rashod Bateman here at 127. So let me service the audio listeners here through 11 rounds. We got Lamar at quarterback, 4 running backs, Chase Brown, Joe Mixon, Cam Skattebo, Tootin, Puka Nacua, Drake London, Chris Olave, Khalil Shakir, Rashod Bateman, and TJ Hawkinson at tight end. I can think through some quarterback stuff here as well. Kind of have a lot of options. Penix with London, Stafford with Puka. We could do McCarthy with Hawkinson. So if I don't like the pocket coming up for wide receiver, I can take another detour here to grab a quarterback. But otherwise, it's going to be a lot of wide receiver darts late. Ben says, GM, my coffee slurping nerds, guilty as charged. Lundar says, I like Bateman this year. Funny how the guys that are always dinged up stay healthy in contract years. There you go. The Rashod Bateman contract year bump. Penix goes 1 pick ahead of me here, or 2 picks ahead of me, so I won't stack up him with London. Just taking a peek at wide receiver. I mean, we are even just ADP wise. McMillan, who still needs to drop a little bit. I think we can wait here. Let's do McCarthy. This is McCarthy right at ADP. We'll grab him with Hawkinson, and now we can, be done at quarterback with Lamar and JJ McCarthy. Is there anything else with Minnesota? Ty Felton is okay as a last round pick, I think, on Minnesota stuff. When you look where they took him, still has to beat out Jalen Nailor to get on the field, which is no lock. But I'm just checking if there's any other kind of late stuff I need to be conscious of here. What was the recent thing they were saying about Keaton Mitchell? Were they saying that he made like a miraculous recovery? Was that a quote I saw recently? I'm just trying to think anything with Baltimore and Minnesota I need to keep tabs on here. Could this be a 4 running back team? I think it could if it had to be, based just like purely on where I spent capital. This will probably though end up being a 5. Probably 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 2 tight ends. We'll probably have 1 luxury pick as far as if we want to go an extra wide receiver or 3 tight ends. But yeah, I mean, I think those kind of, more fragile builds, I do again think those are the things we can mess around with post schedule. this would be a build where if you had 2 overlapping buys with any of these running backs, you'd probably not want to mess around with a 4 running back build. But I think the opportunity for that kind of stuff will certainly present itself more after the NFL schedule. But I think just tilting things to a little bit more safety, whether that's 3 quarterback, 3 tight end builds, grabbing the extra wide receiver at a thin position or an extra running back at a thin position, generally makes sense pre-schedule. Easy says, it's a May 5th audience when people look at this team with Skattebo, Tootin, RB3, RB4, asking if you could be done at 5. Yeah, those picks sure look a lot nicer in May than they will probably on, September 15th. I will say those 2 are really interesting. Just Skattebo and Tootin, both the landing spot, the draft capital. I think all of us were hoping they would get round 3 draft capital, at least maybe even sneak in to round 2. In the case of Cam Skattebo, a lot of people had some pretty bullish grades on him. But it's still, they both have really nice prospect profiles. They both land in good spots. And I actually asked Greg from Coach Speak Index about both of those guys on the Saturday show, and he shared some interesting nuggets that he culled from their press conferences. All right, let's see here. This is another easy one. I have not selected a ton of Isaiah Likely this year, but again, on a Lamar Jackson team, 10 picks past ADP, I think this is a slam dunk tight end selection for me. And I think I need to be more open to the Likely stuff because it's kind of similar to the Jalen Waddle conversation we were just having, where there are some pretty big contingent upside outs if the Mark Andrews stuff does get weird. There has been the specter of a potential trade that's been hanging around for the past couple months. Every time that the team is asked, they say we're not trading him, despite the question continuing to come up. We know Isaiah Likely can provide us some spike weeks, even as a second tight end or a complementary tight end to Mark Andrews. So I think at this price, it's fine. But the fact that you could get a massive contingent upside windfall if there were a trade, it almost feels like you're getting some free upside baked into the pick there. So yeah, I like Likely here in this context. Past ADP on a Lamar Jackson team, need a second tight end. This feels like the spot to get Isaiah Likely. Let's see. Imwald says, is my membership tier not high enough to see those member-only videos? I make those member videos the Value Hounds tier. So that's the $6.99 a month tier that gets you access to the private channel in the Discord and gets you those monthly or weekly videos. If you're one of the lower tiers, you can just upgrade it. And then you'll have access to those. All right, so we have a 2-4-5-2. I think this will work out. We sat out a big range of the draft here where we weren't forcing wide receiver picks. We took our 4th wide receiver at pick 79 in the 7th round. We were patient. We came back. We grabbed Bateman in the 11th. And now we're going to grab another wide receiver here in the 14th, only at 5 wide receivers. But eventually in these wide receiver heavy rooms, the other drafters have to start prioritizing other positions. And now we can kind of have our pick of a Legette or a Dobbs here. I think I'll just go Legette, continue to play some of the try to get a little upside here. We're talking about the Keon Coleman in the year 2 stuff. It's not bullish for Legette. They bring in McMillan. But I actually think there was a little bit more signs of life, some encouragement to what we saw from Legette in year 1 compared to Coleman. And I think there's also the opportunity for an overall offensive leap. Coleman was already in like an ideal offensive environment. At least with Legette, we can sell ourselves on, hey, the quarterback play was pretty subpar for most of the season. What if that offense as a whole improves? And you're also just not even having to pay quite the price on the second year breakout as you are with Coleman. I mean, 162 versus 115. So pretty drastically different price there. So on this room where we have a lot of veterans, a lot of guys who we kind of know what we're getting, we'll tack on Legette here, try to bake in some upside because this room is not letting us have any of the rookies. I mean, Jack Besh went at pick 121 in this draft. Jalen Knoll went at 135. Where did Kyle Williams go? Kyle Williams went at 119. So you guys are not going to let me draft any of the rookie wide receivers. So I'm going to have to go hunting for upside in other spots. Zach says, I'm almost embarrassed to ask, but can someone define exactly what a slappy is? There's words like this where I don't know if there is an exact definition, but I can tell you what I think of when I hear the word slappy. The way I would categorize it, how it's used in the best ball or DFS community, is someone who is basically like consuming content from someone else and then like basically putting that advice into practice, like in an extreme way. So if you're like, oh, Leone has, Juwan Jennings is the best value play on the slate, and then I'm playing him in 100% of my DFS lineups. All right, you're a slappy there. Or Sean Siegel has Xavier Worthy ranked at pick 19, and you're going to start taking him in the late second round of every draft. That's slappy behavior. That's kind of how I define it in my head, but I'm curious if you guys have other definitions of it here. We still need wide receivers. I like being able to break ties with some teammate stuff here. So let's grab Wan'Dale Robinson, another guy if we're just trying to bank some targets on a team that's catching up at wide receiver. And we get another New York Giant here, Cam Skattebo and Wan'Dale Robinson. So up to a 2-4-7-2 there. And we have 3 more picks. I think one's going to for sure be a running back. One's going to for sure be a wide receiver. And then we could kind of play around with, I think, the final pick. Could either be a 9th wide receiver or a 3rd tight end. Yeah, or you can just Google a pick of Davis Maddock. Pete, don't you know Dusty Vets are how you zag while the slappy zig off a cliff? Yeah, these best ball breakfast drafts are where I get my exposure to the veterans. I do not think I've drafted Bateman and Likely on a team yet this year. So I'll use these rooms to get my exposure to that corner of the board. This will make ADP chasing a lot easier to follow now. Yeah, no problem. Those guys, if you guys aren't watching ADP chasing, that show is every Tuesday now, 10 a.m. Eastern on the Ship Chasing YouTube channel. The show is really hitting its stride. Of course, Mike Shope is the host. We got Jacob Sanderson in the fold now, bringing all kinds of great advice and comedic chops over there, along with Davis and Kerrane. Highly recommend it. I believe tomorrow they actually are going to be focusing on some of the veteran risers and fallers. Last week's show had an emphasis on the rookie risers and fallers, and this week they are going to check in on those veterans. All right, we are back on the clock here. It was funny. Okay, I have 2 options here for a wide receiver that are teammates. Man, we were harassing Kerrane about DeAndre Hopkins rank on Ship Chasing on Thursday. Even with Lamar, I'm still not going to do it. I'm going to do Jalen Coker here. Again, getting a teammate pairing here. We're obviously not doing a Bryce Young stack, but I have no problem making stacks without the quarterback here because I'm done at quarterback. I got my Lamar stack. I got my JJ McCarthy. But now we have some of these secondary team bets. So we got Wan'Dale and Cam Skattebo, and we got Jalen Coker and Xavier Legette. And again, at these prices, you're basically just hoping to get one hit out of those 2 second-year wide receivers. And if you could get one hit out of pick 162, 186, you're feeling pretty good about that. This is a good question. Who do you want between Diggs, Ayuk, Godwin in week 17, all injured vets going around the same price? I mean, if they're all healthy, like in this hypothetical, you're saying, they're all good to go by the end of the season, obviously, like definitely Godwin. I still think in those scenarios, Godwin is going to project the best. If you're, flash forwarding to the future, both the 49ers and Bucks probably have pretty good implied team totals in week 17. But I just think we've seen Godwin's ability to consolidate targets be a bit better than Ayuk's recently. And there's a lot of ways I think just how the targets could shake out in San Francisco that make it a little sketchier for Ayuk, where I feel really good about Godwin's role when he's healthy on the field. Even with the addition of Puka, I still think we know what we're getting from Godwin. So I would prioritize him in those scenarios. But there's certainly cases to be made for both of those other guys. I think there's some interesting upside scenarios for Diggs if he consolidates targets and Drake Maye stays healthy. But if you're going to make me decide between one of them, I still would choose Godwin. And the market has it like that as well. What is this draft capital thing you have? Yeah, this is the Draft Caddy overlay I have in here. And you can get it through an in-game syndicate sub, or you can buy it a la carte, I believe, just the Chrome extension. But this is from Leone's manifesto, his very first version of the manifesto. He basically assigned a number to each pick for the capital you've spent, and then bucketed it based on what worked for that specific BBM snapshot. So again, this was a descriptive study on what happened in, I believe it was BBM 1, BBM 2, and then he released this for BBM 3. But from that, looking at the general buckets you want to be in, and I don't actually look at it a ton now because I feel like once you've done a bunch of drafts, you can kind of do this intuitively, but it helps you know where you're behind positionally and where to kind of catch up. All right, fuck it. I'm just going to show some humility. I do not like selecting DeAndre Hopkins. Pat and Davis and myself bullied Pat to drop the rank. But if I'm going to do it, it's going to be on a team where I need wide receivers, and I'm already betting on Lamar Jackson. So you will not catch me drafting DeAndre Hopkins anymore this summer. Let's just get it out of the way. Let's all pretend this didn't happen. Can we all sign a blood oath that this did not happen, that Peter did not select DeAndre Hopkins on this team? But there you go. As my 9th wide receiver on a Lamar Jackson squad, we did it. And this last pick, I'll do a running back here for my last pick here in the 18th. Is Coker not just dead at this point? I don't think he's dead. I don't think he's dead at all. I mean, if we're thinking about how this offense is going to play out, I mean, it's going to start the season with Tet, Thielen, and then what? One of Coker or Legette on the field. I would not be surprised to see a guy like Coker eventually displace, even a guy like Adam Thielen by the end of the season in 3 wide receiver sets. You still have the injury outs. You have him getting on the field in, potentially 4 wide receiver sets if they're airing it out. I don't think he's dead at all. And he's a guy who I feel pretty confident is good at football. Unlike, the Keon Coleman situation, I think what we've seen from his, per route, per target efficiency, I think he's good if he gets opportunity. I think of him kind of like a Demario Douglas type. When he gets those opportunities, he can be productive with them. All right, which running backs do we want to do here? Probably not Woody Marks because we have Joe Mixon. Jalen Wright falls all the way here. I think as the theme of this draft just being a value hound draft, I think we'll just grab Jalen Wright here. Rank of 186, ADP of 188. Get him at 210 on a room where we need a 5th running back. I think that fits the bill there. Doss saying some of the quarterbacks are falling a ton in his room. Penix fell to 185. Tua fell to 191. Geno didn't even get drafted. That is a wild one. I mean, normally you'll see like a single outlier like that. But all three of those guys falling that far is pretty wild. Yes, the draft caddy works on DraftKings. I'm behind on the chat, so I'm now seeing all of your guys' reactions to the DeAndre Hopkins fix. Yeah, Pat's gonna be so pissed at me after I bullied him to bring down the Hopkins rank. Now it seems like market manipulation. Lower the rank, and then I can get him at pick 199. Yeah, this was the question I was asking earlier, and I do agree with you, Tim. He says Keaton Mitchell would have been a good pick for this team. I think if there wasn't the huge faller for Jalen Wright, I agree with you. Like, there's some interesting stuff about Hunter that maybe would have compelled me to do that. I also had Puka on this team. But yeah, Keaton would have made a ton of sense just ripping it in on the Ravens. But I was genuinely asking earlier. I thought I had seen the quote about Keaton Mitchell's miraculous recovery, but I hadn't looked into it too closely. All right, this just isn't nice or fair. Let's see here. Let me recap this team here now that it is in the books. This was my 6th BBM draft. I will say, like, I like, is this the funnest team for me to draft? Absolutely not. Would I much prefer to be able to get a Jaden Higgins, a Trey Harris, load up on the wide receivers? Absolutely. But one of the big things I want to do this year, I think I did it decently last year, but I want to even do it better this year, is being willing to build teams with different constructions than the ones that are, my default preference. And one of those are elite quarterbacks. I think right now the landscape is very conducive to 3 quarterback builds, late builds. I mean, when you look at the pocket of the draft that has the Penix, that has the Dak, the Lawrence, the CJ Stroud, the McCarthy, the Cam Ward, all of those guys there, it really lends itself to loading up on wide receivers and running backs early, and then hammering, 2 to 3 quarterbacks within that window, from round 8 to round 12 or so. That said, I don't want my entire portfolio to be 3 quarterback teams with, a handful of the same quarterbacks from that pocket. So pushing myself into a different direction here, getting uncomfortable at wide receiver. But I think draft capital wise, as I spit here, I think it worked out. So Lamar Jackson, JJ McCarthy did use the Lamar pick as a reason to only go 2 quarterbacks here. Ended up with 5 running backs: Chase Brown, Joe Mixon, Cam Skattebo, Bashal Tutin, Jalen Wright. So you get that kind of double anchor RB up top, get a couple exciting rookies in ambiguous situations, and then kind of a discount handcuff in Jalen Wright there at pick 210. And then wide receivers: Puka, Drake London, Chris Olave, Khalil Shakir. Decent 4 wide receiver start, but then got boxed out from kind of some of those funner picks in the mid rounds, came back around, got Bateman stacked, Legette, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Coker, DeAndre Hopkins. And so a pretty clear theme here of, hey, can we just escape with a couple of hits because of correlation, essentially? One of Bateman and Hopkins potentially getting there, one of Coker and Legette, just buying some targets with Wan'Dale Robinson in that range. And then 2 tight ends as well, TJ Hawkinson, Isaiah Likely. So not my preferred build, especially pre-schedule, because you can run into bye week issues with only 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends. But I think draft capital wise, I like how this team shook out. I like the correlation that I was able to lock in on this team here. Number 6. What is the date today? Oh yeah, it's 5/5, of course. 5/5, Drinko de Mayo, BB 2592. Little Baltimore mini in the books here. Draft number 6. Man, Kendrick come in here with a nice compliment and then, a backhanded compliment as someone who plays battle royales in DFS, but has yet to have a top BBM finish. I mean, people do forget, Kendrick, that I did finish top 10 in BBM too. So, put a little respect on the BBM name. But he's asking the Davis Maddock question. Do you think it's all luck and random in the disparity of your best ball strategy? I mean, I think the best thing I can say, and it's similar to playing DFS, right? Like if you are able to get, teams to the finals, if you are able in DFS to get teams that finish in the top 20, finish in the top 25, if you are getting those shots on goal, that to me is skill. Finishing in first place, finishing in second place, realizing, the equity in those top heavy tournaments, that's the luck portion. And so when you're talking about DFS battle royale, like I played hundreds and hundreds of lineups across 20 plus slates in the battle royale season. That gives me a lot more opportunities to express your skill in a given sport. We have essentially one opportunity, one slate to express our skill and advantages in best ball. And to me, that is the number one reason why not getting married to a specific player, a specific structure or whatever, because you are opening yourselves up to a ton of risk if that one thing doesn't hit. And I talked about this with Davis recently too, but one of the things you learn when you do a ton of battle royale drafts or any kind of, DFS game is you are mixing up your strategies within a single draft. You're drafting 36 players in those dailies. There's 6 round 1 players. You would never go into it saying, I want 90% of this one guy. You're like, give me a little Derrick Henry team. Give me a little Barkley team. Give me a little Nico Collins team. And then you're building versions of your preferred strategy around those building blocks. And so if you can take some of those things that we learn and do in the dailies and apply that to best ball, I think it's really helpful. And it doesn't always feel good. And I think the reason it's easier to diversify in the dailies is because you're doing them like one after the other in short succession, right? Like I'm drafting 100 plus teams within a 36-hour window, from Saturday to Sunday at lock. And so you naturally want to diversify. You don't just want to click the same thing. I think what happens with best ball is because it is spread out over such a long period of time, and you do a draft today, you do a draft in a couple of days, you enter it almost like your memory's been wiped. And it's like, oh, I'm doing a draft and it feels like the first time. So let me go do the thing that feels most comfortable. Let me go do the thing that I default to, that I like. And there's this memory wiping element that I think makes it hard to diversify, because you're like, man, it's been a while since I've gotten to start 5 straight wide receivers. I know I just did it 2 days ago, but let me do it again here. That's fun. And I get that impulse, but I think best ball like distorts our brain as far as like building the same version of the same team over and over again. And so, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but my takeaway is push outside your comfort zone with different strategies. If you're watching the show, if you're consuming a lot of best ball content, you know how to build good teams, but we have these teams that we don't want to make. Like I did not want to build a Baltimore stack with a bunch of guys I normally don't select. But on this team, drafting Rashod Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, and Isaiah Likely made a ton of sense. So that's my number one advice. Push yourself into different corners of the draft board that you're not used to, and then build the best version of that team. And this is Steph with the C+. No, I'm sorry. I think Steph has lost her fastball. This is not a C+ team. This is just because it doesn't have any of your sexy wide receivers here, Steph. I'm going to give it a B- though. I think that's the honest grade there, Steph. Hunter, 22 months. Mondays aren't so bad during best ball season. Love to hear it. H. Small says the elite quarterback is 100% my personal blind spot. Yeah, and again, it's it goes to that same thing from a portfolio perspective. I like the teams that have late quarterback better. Like if you told me I was in a single entry tournament and I could only make one team I'm going to do a late QB. And it's funny that we're talking about this because I'm actually going to record a solo draft video for the Deposit Kingdom channel later today. And what I'm doing is reverse engineering the perfect draft. I did this last year, and then I'm going to see if I can actually go execute it. But my perfect draft, it has 3 mid to late quarterbacks in it. Like, that is my ideal way to take advantage of the current pockets of the draft. But again, going back to that DFS analogy, you would never do 100% of late round quarterback in the BR because you're going to be looking at the ceilings of a Lamar Jackson, of a Josh Allen, of a Jaden Daniels. And you know, within the range of outcomes is one of those guys going for 40 points. And if one of those elite quarterbacks in a single week sample goes for 40 points, you are going to have them to win the contest. And if you agree that they have that ceiling, then why would you ever build a portfolio without that, even if that's not your ideal way to play, even if you like the 2v2s on the early round wide receiver and late round quarterback better, even if that 2v2 projects slightly better, it doesn't acknowledge the range of outcomes that this can happen. And I think it's harder to do in best ball. It's harder to sit there and play those 2v2s. But if Lamar Jackson drops back-to-back 35 balls, 40 balls in the fantasy playoffs, he's going to be the quarterback you need to advance to the finals. And you're going to want to have some of those teams in your portfolio. But this is completely true. Wide receiver feels like it dries up so early. The elite team makes a team a little more uncomfortable. Absolutely. This is the whole reason we're having this conversation. But there's another thing that's true, right? We always talk about wide receiver cliffs. I said the word wide receiver cliff on this show 30 minutes ago when I was referencing a spot with Josh Downs. However, year after year, we are wrong about those cliffs. They can be non-arbitrary in that we're actually looking like, hey, after Josh Downs comes off the board, there's not another wide receiver with an ADP until 15 spots later. Like, there's an actual cliff in available wide receivers as dictated by the market there. But year after year, we see exceptions come from these portions of the draft board that can supercharge different types of builds. So really good example, Nico Collins, the year he broke out, he was going in what, the 120s, 130s? He was past that wide receiver cliff. The year Rashee Rice broke out as a rookie towards the end of the season, he was going in the 120s, 130s. We look at these things and we become overconfident in what we're actually getting from that range and not realizing that those ranges just represent a probability hitting. And sure, the wide receivers from let's say pick 50 to 80, do those have a higher probability of smashing than the wide receivers from 110 to 140? Absolutely. That's why they're placed there. But it doesn't mean that wide receivers from 110 to 140 can't break out or can't hit a high-end range. And so building teams that can work under that maybe uncomfortable assumption, I think is a really smart thing to do. And so in this one, I am trying to say, what if the Carolina offense is awesome? What if you get a full breakout from one of Legette or Coker alongside McMillan and Young takes the leap? What if Lamar puts together another MVP campaign? What if Zay Flowers gets hurt and all of a sudden Bateman and DeAndre Hopkins and Isaiah Likely are top pass catchers on this team? You're playing a very, strict kind of what if scenario, but you're playing a scenario that could supercharge a different type of build than a lot of people in the field. Is randomizer coming back this year? Yes, it is. It'll come back after Memorial Day, and it's going to be part of a bigger block of streaming, I will say. So I'm working on kind of putting the finishing touches on how I want that to look. But instead of having randomizer as a standalone, just 1 hour show, there's going to be some other stuff before it. And I believe it's going to be on Wednesdays, probably Wednesday afternoons. And I'm going to announce kind of the second part of what is going to happen during that streaming block. I'm excited about it, though. I have a pretty fun idea. I think you guys will enjoy it. And then it'll be that new thing that I'm going to debut rolling right into the randomizer. And so, yeah, whatever the first Wednesday is after Memorial Day, that is when that will kick off. So let me see here. Memorial Day is the 26th. So that would be May 28th. I mean, Dan says Pete's doing a great job killing time while Kerrane is running late. He's not late yet. I guess it's 11 a.m. No, Pat's here now. But yes, I can vamp. If there's one thing I can do, I can vamp.
I was here for that whole rant. I was just sitting back there. Yeah.
Oh, so see, you weren't even late. You weren't even late.
I saw that comment come. I was here before that comment. I was like, wow. Thanks, man. Joe Burley still getting roasted.
Hey, there you go. Were you here for when I selected DeAndre Hopkins?
No, I wasn't here for DeAndre Hopkins. I was wondering what initiated the. I was like, Lamar Jackson. Does the chat hate Lamar Jackson that much? But that makes more sense. That Hopkins must have sent them over the edge.
Well, I had this classic thing. So I took Lamar in this draft. He slid. I was like, all right, let's do the elite QB thing. And then classic wide receiver avalanche. Kyle Williams, Jack Besh are off the board before pick 120. And I grabbed Bateman, haven't selected him, grabbed Likely, haven't selected him much. And then I'm staring at fucking DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm like, Davis and I just bullied Pat to lower him in the ranks, and now I'm selecting DeAndre Hopkins.
Hey, we kept him at ADP. It's a fine pick if you need the receiver there.
And boy, did I need the wide receiver there. But no, it was just, it sounds like you heard what I was talking about, but I think, I don't know. That's something I've been thinking about a lot as far as building the different structures, even though I don't like doing elite quarterback, being open to building those teams.
For sure. Yeah. I also think this early part of the year, we've been actually kind of bad at identifying when the wide receiver cliff was. We used to call it the Bateman line, meaning grab Bateman before you go over the line. And then Meyers was going 2 rounds later, and he was a much, much better pick. So there's that part of it. But then we're probably going to be the least accurate in identifying the line right now because ADPs are going to shift around a bunch. So this isn't even in August, maybe it'll be. So I've actually done some weird structures too in this. If you're drafting, I was literally I'm drafting in April. I'm not allowed to be a little weird.
Right. And I think the thing that makes it really uncomfortable is there is a stretch. If you miss out on the Higgins and then the Besh and Kyle Williams are going really early, there is essentially a stretch from after Josh Downs until you get to the Dobbs, Coker, Thielens, and the 150s where there's just no one to take. And so you're sitting there and I'm looking at having 4 wide receivers and then knowing I'm also not going to take another wide receiver for 50 more picks. And it feels really, really bad, but it's all right, I'm just going to grab my QB 2. I'm going to grab my tight end 2. I'm going to grab my running back 3 and running back 4. And eventually the wide receivers will be here again.
Yeah. You can't make wide receivers appear if they're not there. So it is better just to be all right, let me see what is here and grab that. And then pray you can get by with, but at least you're stacked, if you are betting on the correlation to help carry you through.
For sure. All right, guys, hopped us into a draft. We're doing another 30-second BBM here to make sure we have a little time. 2 more spots available. If you guys are in the Discord, you got tipped off there. Pat, this is my 7th BBM draft, our 3rd together because we drafted one on ship chasing the other day. Where have you been putting your volume lately?
I did some Schnauzer drafts at the end of last week. I did a DK draft on Friday. And then I'm still at 5 BBM, so I haven't. I'm going to do one today, I think, as well. But kind of trickling them in here before the schedule release. I don't want to get too, I kind of want to know the schedule at a certain point. And it's not. I don't think the ADPs are wildly different than they will be in a week or two. That period seems like it's kind of over, or it's settling enough to where I kind of
Did you feel, because the whole point of being willing to draft a bunch before the schedule comes out was to attack the CLV, attack the risers. I feel like there was a little bit of it.
Little bit. Yeah.
But wouldn't you, this year to me represented a big shift in how those opening drafts operated 2 years previously.
I definitely agree. My favorite team is actually the first team I drafted. But I guess it was the second team I drafted. Yeah, it was the second team I drafted. And it was basically a hyper fragile team. So I was able to because to me, one of the things that's different than last year is that some of the values are like boring veteran running backs. So like it's Genty, Chuba, Pollard, and Rashad White. So it's kind of like just 4 running backs, kind of old school, hyper fragile. And then I got some values on receivers, but nothing crazy.
All right, Pat, we got the 110 here. Genty long off the board. So we're looking at, the neighbors, Nico, Amon-Ra tier. You got a favorite here right now?
I would probably go neighbors highest by ADP, but
yeah,
all these guys are great picks.
Yep. I feel similarly. I like the neighbors stuff. Are you touching any Giants quarterbacks in drafts right now or no?
No. I dart I will do at the end if I'm like I really need one. But typically no.
Yeah. I do wonder too, like we talked about that with the pre-draft stuff and the Calvin Ridley and Cam Ward dynamic. I wonder too if there would even be a little bit more enthusiasm for neighbors. I know there's not much room for him to move up, but even moving up a couple slots, if like you just knew who his quarterback was to stack him with, that would make it more exciting.
I mean, we're on the clock.
Sorry. Yeah. Let's see here. We are looking at AJ Brown, Drake London, Achane, Ladd, Henry.
I'm happy to go London or Brown.
Yeah. I just did a London team, but do you have a preference here? I mean, it's close, obviously.
I don't think Hurts will come back, and I don't want to take him the 4th, and he probably won't come back to the 5th. So I'd kind of lean London.
Yeah, let's do London. Oh yeah, sorry, you were going to say something about the quarterback.
Hey, it's just frustrating because they had the entire offseason to get something in place where, we could be like, this is stable. I mean, honestly, like if they had got Fields in, I think we'd just be very excited to take neighbors. I don't know if they'd go that much higher, but I think he would probably be up with Puka, and they just like would form like a little mini tier.
It's so funny, like the kind of just how people are. Obviously, Fields has moved up a little bit in ADP, but it definitely hasn't resulted in enthusiasm for Garrett Wilson. Where
it hasn't.
Garrett Wilson stuff is interesting. Just he had the weird year with the Rodgers and playing second fiddle with the Devontae Adams love and all of that, and now it's like everything is like cleared out for him to once again be the alpha, and there doesn't seem to be that much enthusiasm for it.
When he, when Fields signed, my first instinct was like, well, this sucks, better lower Garrett Wilson because, passing volume and everything, and kind of went to do that. But in checking kind of like what we'd been assuming to that point, I was like, oh, right. We were assuming that like he might not have a quarterback this year. Like that might be, what's going on in New Orleans or, where it looked like in Cleveland. It might be like a Cleveland level situation. So actually, in comparison to that, this is good. And we kind of raised him a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to get like super, super excited about Wilson. In a 3rd round ADP being like an absolute smash, I think Fields definitely makes that like a little thinner, but it makes at the same time there were certain outcomes where him in the 3rd round just like wouldn't make sense anymore. You're like, I don't want to be invested in this offense at that price, but at least we have the floor of Fields, and I do have some faith that Fields can take a step. He's had pretty bad coaching up until last year, and then last year the game plan wasn't really built for him and was extremely run heavy. So a team that's willing to pass with him and is doing so intelligently would be a first.
Yeah. And I feel like you get, I mean, at the very least, Garrett Wilson is going to be able to do what like DJ Moore did with Justin Fields, which is have the potential to go absolutely insane in a single game. Exactly. And I think if you bake in, like you said, Fields making a little bit of a leap, there is more of a target floor there for Garrett Wilson as well, where he could actually provide a sneaky, like awesome floor ceiling combination in that offense.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. We are on the clock here. Kyren Williams, Tet, Worthy, Josh Allen, Evans. What speaks to you with our neighbors' London start?
I mean, honestly, I would probably want to go Tet here, but I'm down for Worthy, Evans. I don't actually want to go Kerrane because I think we could go Brees or Hampton on the wrap. But if you wanted to go Kerrane, I'd be fine with that too. It's obviously, defensible.
All
What
right,
the sidekick recommends.
I did Evans at the last second. Who knows in this room after we discussed it, but there is obviously, we pick at 39 and Tet's ADP there. So there's no way you're going to get Evans plus Tet. But if you go Tet first, but if you go Evans first, there's a chance. So I figured let's give ourselves that.
I'm good with that. Tet's also someone I'm just taking a ton of. And at a certain point, it could go bad. So I'm happy to mix it up a little.
Yeah, and he does come back to us. So let's. I'm definitely down to.
I would also take Kerrane if you want to do that.
He went. He just went.
Oh, he just went. My bad. I saw him there.
Yeah. So we can grab Tet and start. Get us. The people were disgusted with my lack of early wide receivers last round. So we just gave you Malik Neighbors, Drake London, Mike Evans, Tet McMillan. Are you happy? Are you happy? Yeah, like how I remember, I think I talked about this with you on the first show too, but like what kind of exposure do you think you're comfortable with Tet? Because you're going to end up with a shit ton based on your leg up rank.
Pretty high. I mean, he was the 8th overall pick and profiles as a target earner in an offense that has a bunch of targets available. I think it could be a smash. And it's in an area where, like, there's not that many guys who really profile as straight-up league winners. Worthy, I think, definitely has that really, really high-end upside. But I think it's very debatable how much you have to squint. Like, some people really don't think you have to squint much at all. I think you do have to squint. Maybe not, like, a ton, but you definitely have to squint. And then I think there's arguments of like you're really squinting to see the really high end ceiling, and the Rashee Rice stuff continues to get more and more bullish. So you're potentially looking at like Worthy. It's not like you don't even get like the Juwan Jennings factor where he like starts kind of hot because there's less competition. Rice might just play the whole season. So that obviously like hurts Worthy a little bit. And then. Like Evans has kind of been proving us wrong, every time we faded him the last few years. Even when he didn't have a great season, he drops 50 in week 17 a few years ago. So I don't want to fade him, but, he's a 32-year-old receiver now going in like the 3-4 turn area. It's like, I don't know. It's tough to see it as like a true ceiling play when they just drafted a first-round wide receiver. Godwin will be getting healthier as the season goes on. So it's an area where the upside that Tet provides, especially on a start like this, like we're actually like, going to be able to make use of his backloaded production in a way that could be huge. Yeah.
And it is, I mean, when you frame it next to where we were drafting Harrison and Neighbors, and those guys were definitely, slightly better prospects than Tet.
For sure. They definitely were.
But when you think about like the progression of how they were used in their offense and kind of the bumps you have along the way, and both of them had bumps. I mean, Neighbors' quarterback play was atrocious. Marvin Harrison, the way they deployed him, it was pretty rocky for both of those guys at times. So like even getting a discount on those targets are coming is really nice. And then you do get the upside of like, what if he's just fucking awesome? Like then all of a sudden you have a couple ways to win there.
Exactly. Yeah. There's the upside is not fully priced in here. I mean, Neighbors was a hit at the 2-3 turn. He wasn't like an absolute smash, but like that's not a pick you wanted back.
No, and partly because of what he did in the fantasy playoffs. I mean, his week 17 was nuts. Okay, we're on the clock here. We start 4. We can pair up a couple Carolina guys with Chuba. We can get an RJ Harvey share. What do you like?
I do like Chuba here. I'd be okay going Harvey if you wanted. Harvey's tough to get.
If I get if I get a teammate pairing at or around ADP, I normally take it. So I'm good with Chuba.
Yeah. I think Chuba's good, man.
Yeah.
His rushing efficiency last year was outstanding.
It was. I mean, where do you think, as we see RJ Harvey go here at 59 in the 3 best ball breakfast drafts last week, he went in the 5th and 1, the 6th and 1, and the 7th. Obviously, the 7th round days are long gone. Where do you think RJ Harvey's ADP settles here? Like, let's say in a couple weeks.
I think in the 5th. I think he's going to settle in the 5th.
Yeah. He probably can't. He can't like jump Joe Mixon, can he?
Yeah, he can.
I guess he can.
But he definitely can. Let's do Henderson. Henderson's what we. Yeah. We earned that with the Chuba pick. And I'd rather go like, not that you have to do this, but I'd rather go Chuba Henderson than like Harvey Kamara or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun one too, because I think we all know, like in our heart of hearts, it's pretty unlikely that Trevion Henderson is gonna like come out in week 1, be so undeniably good and use so much that like week 2 we're ranking him as like a top 15 running back. That's probably wishful thinking. So you're gonna need to buoy the Patriots bullshit at the beginning of the season until they have no choice but to keep him on the field for every play.
Henderson's like truly like back weighted, but he's a better prospect than Harvey. You know, Harvey landed in the funny thing about Harvey is that he landed in such a good situation that I think we're like forgetting. We've really thrown out our priors on RJ Harvey to some extent. I think it's warranted. Like no one thought he was going to have this level of draft capital. So like in my stuff, he jumped up significantly. You know, in the running back model, is like, oh, he's like a late first round type of guy. He comes out similarly to Quinshon Judkins now. So the draft capital was a meaningful boost because I was worried he was going to maybe be a day 3 guy. So that part of it's just like, I think correct for us to update, but he's still not as good of a prospect as Henderson. Henderson was clearly a better prospect. Yeah. And you know, the situation's not as good, but down the stretch, we're betting on the talent.
Well, not to mention, I'm pretty sure I heard wasn't there an official report that the cornerback that fell to the Broncos, they were shocked he was still on the board. And if he wasn't on the board, they were going to take Henderson there. I'm pretty sure is what I heard, that they had done like they wanted to trade up to get Genty. Then they were going to stand pat and take Henderson, but they had that cornerback they selected as like top 10 overall on their board. And they're like, we gotta take him. And
so then you're talking in the first round.
Yes.
First round, they would have gone Henderson.
Yeah. So, I mean, they clearly wanted one of the best backs in this class, Genty and Henderson, and then they went and got their preferred flavor outside of those top 2 to 3 guys.
Yeah, Henderson would have flipped Hampton in that case, I think.
Yeah.
So you're talking about like where we took Tet, we go Henderson.
Yes. Yeah. And if anything, like with a player like Henderson, I'm kind of glad for the slightly less sexy landing spot.
I feel you. Because he almost doesn't need it. Like he can hit without. Yeah.
What do you say to the accusations that you are already selecting Henderson just to set up Drake Maye?
Let's talk about something else.
Okay. Well, we are on the clock here. At 7:10, looking at some wide receivers, Reed, Burden, Igbuka, if we want to try to double up on the Bucks. Swift is also here.
I'm good with the receivers. Swift is, I don't know that we necessarily need Swift. I'd certainly be open to him on the wrap.
Which wide receiver would you want?
Either Igbuka or Burden.
All right. I just did Igbuka at the last second just because I feel like we can probably get Baker here. And if not, we can do, Swift, Burden, something like that.
On Swift because he's such a gross click. And I do feel like they probably got sniped on all these running backs. And that's the only reason they're leaning on him. But what else are they going to do?
Yeah. And it's also like, did they get sniped? I feel like there was like so many opportunities to select running backs at every juncture of the draft.
It's
It's such a weird subplot with like Ben Johnson's history with DeAndre Swift back in Detroit as well. And then like coming back around and being like, yeah, I wanted to replace this dude who was pretty decent with Jahmyr Gibbs right away. But now I'm comfortable with him being, our starter. You good with Baker here to lock up
Baker's
that
great.
back?
Yeah. We might have a Tet bring back, by the way.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah, Tet Chuba maybe.
They're almost a lock to play one of those weeks in the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah.
So here's the team. We started with those 4 wide receivers: Neighbors, London, Evans, Tet. We grabbed Tet's teammate Chuba as our RB1. Come back and grab Trevion Henderson as our RB2. Tack on Igbuka and Baker as part of the Bucks double stack there through 8.
We got to get Sean on a pod and ask him about Ibuka because he's just not that into him, and it makes me nervous. I'm in a dynasty draft with him. We co-manage. We were on the clock, and I was like, I'd be down to take Ibuka here. Harvey was off the board.
Yeah.
But it was like Golden, Burden, Ibuka, and then you're down to like Skattebo and Tootin.
Was Higgins there? Because Sean has Higgins over.
Higgins was there, yeah. But I was like, I don't love Higgins that much. I don't want to take Higgins over those other 3 guys.
Yeah.
I'd rather just go running. Like if you're gonna pass on the receivers, I'd rather just go running back. It's FFPC, and running backs are always, kind of harder to get anyway. But Sean would just he was like, yeah, I'm Higgins over Ibuka. I really want to hear the full Ibuka bear case from Sean.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, especially because, Sean obviously values both production and athleticism, but like the Igbuka production was awesome. I had a funny moment. So I was in my main dynasty rookie draft that kicked off. I had the 102, took Travis Hunter there. I come back at 202, and the context I'll give you, this is a team I have both Caleb Williams and Jordan Love, and Golden falls to 2-2, and then Burden is still there. And I was just in a pretzel because both of them I already have bets on their quarterback. And I'm like,
yeah. And
then I go and look at Sean's rating. I'm like, well, Sean says take Higgins here instead. And I was torn for a while. I ended up going Burden. And I'm going to get my exposure to Golden in best ball. He just is not a guy I want to have to deal with in Dynasty, even at a discount.
I would have gone Burden too. I just think the ceiling on Burden, when you look back in 2 years and you're like, oh no, I could have taken that guy. To me, it's so much more likely to be Burden. He's also more likely to be a straight up bust. I think Golden will probably have some utility as a downfield real life receiver, but yeah, Burden really feels like he could punish you for fading him.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I took Caleb Williams in the rookie draft last year, and I'm just like, my team is already, like the Bears, very much tied to Caleb Williams' success. So it's I want having a correlated bet between Caleb being really good and the guy that Ben Johnson hand selected for him feels like a nice way to play it.
For sure.
All right. We are about to pick here at 9-10. That's pick 106. We got our 1 quarterback, Baker double stacked. We got our 2 running backs, 5 wide receivers, no tight ends yet. We'll see if Kelsey falls to us. ADP of 100, pick 106. He does fall. Charbonnet.
The Mahomes drafter's on the other side, so if we did want him, he won't come back. But we don't necessarily need to do it. I'd probably lean Charbonnet as the running back.
No, the Mahomes drafter is behind us. Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah. So I'd lean Charbonnet or Kelsey here, I think.
Okay. Do you like Kelsey here? Or...
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down if you want to go Kelsey.
All right, we can do Kelsey. I'm thinking through too, obviously Kate Otten on this team is going to make some sense. You never are really boxed out at tight end in this landscape.
Kelsey's so tough because he sucked in the Super Bowl. He had two really strong games at the end of the season. You have Rice coming back, so that would hurt him. I was talking to Drico about the FFPC rank. On FFPC, he's going at 74.
Okay.
No, I think so. He's got an ADP of 72 on FFPC. He's got an ADP of 74 on DraftKings. So there's no, the premium doesn't cost you anything. Yeah, but Dricko's still out. He's like, this dude's done. I'm not taking him. So, which I respect because he might be done. But yeah, I'm obviously down to take Drake Maye if you want. But
I was going to say, because Drake Maye isn't coming back, you do also have like Bryce Young and Penix if you want to push QB2. But I'm not.
I honestly was down to skip Drake Maye until you said we would take Bryce Young and Penix. No, I want Drake Maye.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, we'll just give you what you want, which is Drake Maye, 10 picks ahead of ADP. Nothing makes you happier.
I mean, I was actually hearing the other options is what got me on Maye there.
What is going on with Jack Besh's ADP? Every time I look up Jack Besh at 109, what is happening?
Right wing slappy, man. He's the biggest right wing slapper there is.
God. So, yeah, I don't know. Like it's like, even setting aside your love for Drake Maye, I do like in those situations, if I have the other cheaper quarterbacks in my back pocket for stacks, I normally then break the tie away from
that guy. Yeah. Which is very fair.
But it is, I think the nice thing is if you do what I would have done, you kind of put yourself in a spot where you're probably in 3 quarterback territory, like Baker, Bryce, Penix. Whereas when you go Baker, Maye, you free up that roster spot if you want it.
I do think you free up the roster spot because Maye can run. So you're getting a little bit more of a floor. And if you don't have a floor, well, you also have their running back. So you're in trouble. You know, if the offense is a disaster, it's already a problem. So, yeah, I do think we're just 2 quarterback here.
Yeah. Blizzy wants a schedule release streaming special. It's actually tricky, like the way they do it, because it's like at night and they like trickle it out over like a 3-hour program.
So weird. Yeah.
So it's like you couldn't even just like you basically have to wait for it. And then like Thursday, because it'll be released on Wednesday, the 14th. So then the next Thursday we'll all have the full schedule, but it's like, would actually be hard to do a streaming concurrent with the release.
It would be funny to just, okay, there's another one.
There's one matchup, like 1 week 16 matchup that you're now triangulating. God. Let's see here. Favorite wide receiver targets on New England. I mean, let's ask the expert here, and let's also just wait until things play out as Kyle Williams goes off the board at 123.
Yeah, the favorite target's Kyle Williams, but
yeah,
I was taking Diggs. But he's so much more expensive now. He's an old guy coming off an ACL tear. Where did he go here?
Who? Diggs? 79.
Yeah, that's expensive.
Yeah.
That's expensive.
Yeah. It is. It's a tough price to pay. And someone asked me the question of the Diggs, Ayuk, Godwin, like who you'd most want to have in like week 17. I mean, I gave the chalk in Godwin if all things were healthy, but yeah, that is a really interesting range where it's like, do you want the vets with uncertainty like the Diggs, Ayuk, or do you want the rookies, Igbuka, Burden, Golden that have the uncertainty? It's kind of like what flavor you're looking for.
Right. Nick has a comment here. The Diggs looks good training with Rashi. I didn't realize they were training together. Is it possible they both look bad, but they look bad in such a way that complements the way the other looks?
I don't know if that works. If 2 ugly people are next to each other, they both look hot in comparison to the other. Like that. Let's see. You could double tap New England running backs.
I honestly be down, man. We kind of need. That's like exactly the type of back we need, and we're spending you're locking up the backfield where you have the quarterback. I'm kind of into it.
I am too. I mean, generally, that price starts to be like slightly the gap of like, you're making the bet on Henderson, but you're kind of hanging your hat on, even in some Henderson breakout scenarios, they're essentially playing a different position. Like you are getting the Gibbs, Montgomery. Like
it's Achane Mostert is what you're hoping for. Yeah. Back when that would have worked. Yeah.
The difference, of course, was Achane and Mostert were both double
much cheaper.
Yeah.
The Achane went here and Mostert was rounds after this. Yeah. But you would have, if you knew that's what, you were in for, you would have paid these prices. No problem.
The other, Ramondre is a guy who will drop a lot. I'm pretty sure I have a share of him in the early 140s from a draft. Just kind of people, obviously everyone knew he needed to drop after the Henderson, but to what extent is the question. Yeah, what we want to do with tight end is interesting because you have Ferguson here, but we also have Otten and Hunter Henry as options late. Spears,
I think we go
to me.
Spears would be cool. Yeah, I do Spears. I do Benson. White's coming up for correlation, but we don't have to do that.
Okay. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, and this is the let's go Spears. The wide receivers are wiped here, which is to be expected. But we got 5 through 82 picks, so we're okay there. So the team now, to catch you guys up, we got Baker double stacked with Evans and Igbuka. We got Drake Maye with Henderson. We also got, and with Ramondre. We also have Chuba and Spears at running back, so up to 4 there. The wide receivers, Neighbors, London, Evans, McMillan, Igbuka, and then Travis Kelce at tight end. Do you think the bet with Kelce this year, do you think it's kind of like binary, or do you think it's like I kind of just know what I'm getting from this price and it's like a fairly safe asset?
I don't think it's safe because he's so old that like nothing is safe anymore. But I do think that he can pay off this price like pretty easily, actually. And it's like a position where you don't not many guys score that many points. So like he still put up, like last year, he put up games that would easily have paid off this price. And then you look at the other tight ends that have, been at his level, guys like Gronk and Tony Gonzalez, and they produced till like the very end. Gronk fell off in his second to last season to 9.3 points per game. And he was at 10.2 the year before that. But then he came back and put up 14.3 in his final season. Kelce was down to 12.3 last year, which is annoying. But he put up 22 points in week 17, put up 20 against Denver in week 10, 23 against Tampa Bay in week 9, 25 against the Raiders. Like, these are all PPR, not half PPR, but still.
Yeah.
He put up 24.7 in the divisional round. And then he finishes with 2 awful games. But I still think he can spike, especially if Worthy does take a step. If the offense is more effective passing, I still think he can spike. He's not the reliable week in, week out, like tight end one like he was, but I don't know. Compared to some of the other guys in this range, like I still think Loveland's there. Loveland's got massive target competition and is a rookie.
Yeah.
If he had the game log from last year of Travis Kelce, we would be like, oh. But it's like if Kelce just like does what he did, if he does like 80% of what he did last year, I think he pays off like a 10th round ADP. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not a fun click. But
you're touchdown hunting a little bit more with him this year, but it's like that's firmly in play.
Yeah.
All right, we're about to pick at 13-10. Sidekick has been pushing Rashod on us. Definitely makes sense on a Baker team. It could also be time to start thinking about other wide receivers potentially. What do you like?
I think Rashod ADP value Baker team. We kind of need he gives us a little bit of that handcuff upside, pass catching. He'll probably run for some touchdowns in an annoying way. So I think he's a solid pick.
Yep. Yeah, the other guy that was there and also falls a good bit is Algier. We have London. People do not like Algier, man. He's I think pacing to be my most drafted running back so far.
He's a great pick.
Always sliding. Yeah.
I don't get it. He's good.
Yeah. I think he's just like
handcuff.
I think I think I'm trying to think because it's like, well, people like Trey Benson as like a pure handcuff, but I guess it's just he's younger and sexier. And I guess James Conner feels like less of an impediment than Bijan. Yeah, I think it just like people have a hard time getting past Bijan Robinson, but it's like at this point, you're playing that binary contingent upside outcome anyways.
100%. And you have the safety of you're not going to like. Sometimes you dive into the RB2 waters and it's like, oh yeah, this guy's actually not the RB2 at all.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry's good.
We could do Henry or
Otten.
Yeah, or I was gonna say if you want to do like Dobbs and then push one of the tight ends to come back, but I'm fine locking up Henry.
We could do Dobbs if you want.
We
have 2 tight end outs. We don't need Henry.
Yeah, let's do. I don't know. In the scenarios where we lose both a couple guys, and then it's like we did it for fucking Romeo Dobbs.
Right.
And then I'm like, so yeah, let's just grab Henry there, and then we'll have to get creative with these late wide receivers.
Dobbs is interesting because with those roles, it's like he'll be out there, and it's really comes down to how much target earning he can do. But I think in some ways, Golden could help him. People get kind of weirded out with some of the comps I use for Golden, but I do think he's going to stretch the field. If you want to compare it like back to an older offense, he's probably like Golden's probably the Randy Moss, and Dobbs is more like, that didn't get a rise out of you. I thought I'd get you with that.
It took me a second. It's gonna be a long summer.
Just no reaction from Pete.
I was lost thinking about wide receiver Packer rotations in my head.
Damn. I thought I'd get something there.
Tyler says Dobbs has continually been the only Green Bay wide receiver to run 80% of the routes. His role is safe. For sure. Yeah. I mean, he's the only like stable asset in that. I mean, I'd say Tucker Kraft's role is probably pretty stable. Wow. Pat going with the full coffee pour. What was that? That pot that it looks like something you'd get at like a Four Seasons
French press.
There. Okay. You got the French press there. Yeah. Look at that. Pat getting rave reviews from the pour.
Someone asked for a pour earlier, so I had that in the back of my mind when it was time for a refill.
There you go. I know. It's like, and now making my like chode of a
this kind of chode
is so sad. Yeah. Yeah, Vadim says, "Don't feel bad, Pete. Pat, Pete can't concentrate without Chase Brown on this team. I did draft him in the previous one." It's a Kerrane family heirloom. You got it as a gift score here. Pour over Pete. Just pour while Pete talks. I like that. Yeah. If you get some really good elevation on it, you could drag out the pour for a while.
That was the Randy Moss of coffee pours. So
yeah. Romeo Dobbs is considered a chaperone. Absolutely. He is one of the best wide receiver chaperones on the market.
Yeah, he's definitely a chaperone.
All right, Pat, let's figure out what we're going to do.
Chris Carter was when Randy Moss was a rookie.
Man, you're in dire straits when the sidekick is starting to suggest Tyler Lockett to you. That's when you
that's when you're in bad shape for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's
honestly, I kind of just want to go DJ Giddens here and call it a running back.
The only other thing I'd float, and I took him last draft too, but like on a Tet team, Coker on a wide receiver,
sure.
Needy. Let's just get a guy here because we're only at 5. Yeah,
I'm good with it. We could take Young if he comes back as well. I mean,
yeah, I guess at this price, 183
he's
as
super
a QB3.
Stacked. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great price.
Let's do it.
The sidekick regularly suggests Tyler Lockett, as it turns out, for Michael. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think he's going to play some. So,
Yeah, I'm down with. So that would give us 3, 5, 6, 2. We'd have 17th and 18th, probably looking at least one more wide receiver, but some flexibility there. I'm good with Bryce at this price.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we're good with the 2 tight ends, probably. We could take a third as a luxury. Giddens was kind of a luxury pick there, and so Bryce Young becomes the luxury pick instead. We're probably done at running back if we want to be. Receiver's the only thing we definitely need, I would say. We need one receiver.
I want to get your the take on DJ Giddens, because I know you guys are above market on him. If you're drafting off leg up ranks right now, you'll get a lot of Giddens. I assume you guys are feeling pretty confident he's the locked and loaded RB2 behind Taylor.
That's what we're thinking. He was a good prospect, and the style of prospect that he is that he's kind of got this do everything skill set. Like the concern would be like he's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none would be, the kind of the downside case. But he really does do a lot of things. He's 212 pounds. He was really athletic. Like his RAS was higher than Bashal Tutin's and just a hair worse than Quinshon Judkins for the best in the class, up there with Amari and Hampton and stuff. Like really, really impressive. He was pretty good as far as tackle breaking and that, like elusive rating and that kind of stuff. He had decent enough breakaway game. He was impressively efficient as a receiver, 1.24 career yards per route run, which is pretty good for a college running back. That's right there with Bashal Tutin at 1.27. He has like some drops concerns. So his like yards per target or yards per reception was really high, but didn't have a ton of receptions per game. So it's not like a perfect receiving profile, but he has the ability to make plays with the ball in his hand in space. So, the kind of like there's multiple ways for him to contribute. He falls to pick 151, but he's in a situation where there's really not much competition there for the backup job. And a guy who can do a little bit of everything and has good size at 212 is sort of a perfect play if you're betting on a handcuff. So we talked about Algier. This is a guy who is in that kind of Algier mold. We have less confidence that he's good and less confidence that he's definitely the backup, but we're pretty confident he's the backup. And then I also think like Taylor has some more holes in his game than Bijan. If they wanted to start using Giddens a little bit more as a receiving outlet, that would be a path for him to have some standalone value down the stretch or something. So, that's kind of the case.
All right, Pat, 2 more picks here, 17, 10, 18, 3. We're at a 3, 5, 6, 2, done with quarterback. Definitely need 1, if not 2 wide receivers here. What do we want to do?
I mean, Darius Slayton
with neighbors. Yeah. I'm fine with that on this team as our 7th wide receiver. And then what? The sidekick push in tight end.
Because we started 4 straight receivers is what. Yeah. That's kind of what it's reminding us here is like we actually spent a lot of capital at receiver. So we don't necessarily have to go receiver again. It's not crazy to, but by draft capital, we would be thinking 3 tight ends probably more than an 8th receiver.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like you can make argument for running back, wide receiver, or tight end.
I do too.
But the running backs are wiped.
Woody Marks is a fine enough play if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, 80 Mitchell is interesting to me. I feel like Kelsey and Henry is fine for 2 tight ends at this point.
Yeah, if we did it, I would want to go Fannin just as an upside play. AD Mitchell's cool. We could do that. We could. I think Woody Marks is also kind of interesting. It's just like like he's probably a 3rd down back, so it's nothing crazy good. But
all right, let's get. I'm gonna let Hayden do the Woody Marks thing because USC guy Hayden's coming on.
Okay, nice.
We'll save the Woody Marks, but yeah, I think he's draftable. I mean, in a way, isn't it kind of like the Jayden Blue profile in that it's like he's probably more pigeonholed into like pass catching, but then all of a sudden it's like, who knows? Like if there's an injury, if there's opportunity,
That's
like,
kind of what
could
I'm
they
thinking.
be asked to do more?
They traded up for him too, which like there's just inexcusable. Like I don't think Woody Marks is a good prospect, and I think what the Texans did in this draft to like trade up for him is like truly kind of inexcusable. It's Isaac Tesla level. Like what are you doing? But I'm not in charge of the Texans. You know, like the Texans are going to do what the Texans do, and I don't see who else is playing if Joe Mixon goes down. Like they're going to have to lean on Woody Marks now. And it's not like he like can't play. I think he's more of like some of the reasons I don't like Woody Marks is actually comes down to how he looks to me. Like he's like this kind of like straight line runner. You breathe on him, he falls down kind of guy. But he ran a ton of routes in college, and he's not like awful by my number. He's 207, wasn't particularly athletic, but he didn't break any tackles. So that backs up. He's kind of fast, but his breakaway percentage was absolute trash. So he's not that good of a prospect, but
Yeah.
he's at like 207 and has a thing he does, which is catch passes. It would be like not even that surprising at all if there was an injury and this guy they spent some draft capital on hit as a rookie, you know? So you're getting him in the 18th round. He was pick 116. There's a clear path to him being the backup. It would almost be surprising if he wasn't. I'm taking him now. I'm taking him.
Yeah. And I think the only thing and that's why I wanted you to talk about DJ Giddens too, is like, we know the biggest risk in drafting right now is to take some of these guys whose position on the depth chart isn't as solidified as we think. And I think a lot of those like third round wide receivers fit the bill as well. You know, your Ty Felton, Savion Williams, Pat Bryant, Tesla, where it's like, there's going to be some hits out of those guys I just named. Like, I think like one of those guys will probably be a pretty nice hit. But it's also like, how much fire do we want to play with on May 5th with those guys? And I would put the Woody Marks, the Jaquiz Hunters, like those guys too, where it's like, there's going to be some hits. Like some of those guys are going to be the clear RB2s. It's how much of that do we want to tilt our portfolio to now in May versus waiting for some information?
But honestly, so someone made a comment that I might have take lock on Giddens, which like, if you're just comparing like the point you just made about like, we're wading into kind of some uncertain waters here in terms of who even the backups are. Giddens is riskier than Woody Marks, I think, purely from that perspective. Like I am kind of betting on the profile still. Now, even with the draft capital that Giddens got, he looks like a meaningfully better prospect to me than Woody Marks. Yeah. But you're right. He was a 5th round pick. He might not be the backup. I don't know who else is, but it's possible he's not. We have Leone here. He just put in our chat some Woody propaganda. He's clearly watched. He says, quote, we really like Woody and what he's able to provide. Texans coach D'Amico Ryan said following the draft, really like him out of the backfield, catching the football, really great hands, really has the ability to make guys miss at the line of scrimmage and the ability to play behind his pads, play physical. So like the addition of him to our running back room, I do think he's probably the backup given, they traded up for him. He goes pick 116. He's probably like one of the safest ways to play the rookie handcuff game. It's just, I personally don't really like the prospect that much, but right. when you're getting him for free, he probably won't be free later. I bet you he rises. He's pretty safe to rise, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, you find yourself in some spots, right? Like there are some rooms where you need that last wide receiver, you need that last running back. And it's like, this is the best available. There actually isn't like, it's when there's a choice between like a sure thing. And I think like the Darius Slayton versus Savion Williams is like a good example of that, where there's going to maybe be a time later this summer where it's like you're clicking Savion Williams over Darius Slayton every time because you got some information in the breakout.
And the information was Darius Slayton got hurt.
Or Darius Slayton continues to be Darius Slayton. But yeah. That's just the thing I think about, because it is hard to untangle. Like, obviously we all want the mystery box rookies and what that upside should represent. But if you're drafting a decent amount of teams right now, when we look back on our early May drafts, you're like, what the fuck were you thinking with this rookie pick
100%.
over the wild that is now a threat. You know, the Kamani Vidal, thing basically.
So people now saying, Brett Jones says, I think it was Brett said that Giddens is undraftable right now. So I've conceded some points on Giddens, but I've also given Woody Marks propaganda, which makes me really bummed out. So I am going to now give some Giddens propaganda. This is a quote from Shane Steichen. DJ Giddens has contact balance, vision. He's a 4.43 guy, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. The toughness he plays with is off the charts. That's per Coach Speak Index. So, come on.
Well, that's to me. That's why it's the Giddens stuff is more exciting than say the Marks or whatever, because it's like how we felt about Giddens as a prospect. Like people were hoping he would get better draft capital, but it's like what happens when he takes over the backfield. It's like, okay, if Woody Marks or Jaden Blue, like, did they have the full juice to like go Bucky Irving, to go full supernova? It's like the DJ Giddens profile hints at a pretty big fantasy ceiling, so that at least if you're taking that risk on, when you do hit that 2-leg parlay of being right, then it's like a smash for fantasy.
I also have no problem getting aggressive. So the guys that I'm not really taking as much right now are like Jarquez Hunter, Ollie Gordon, Devin Neal, because I'm not sure that they're the handcuff. Because like it could be Jalen Wright, it could be Kendre Miller. Dennis Allen is gone now. He might not be in the doghouse. So it might be Blake Corum. So there you're like, I might just like literally be drafting an RB3 or even a practice squad guy, given some of the, like you talk about like Kyle Monungai and stuff, like he might be on the practice squad. He was a 7th round pick. Ollie Gordon was a 6th round pick. Like it's a little bit, it's risky. That like those dudes are legitimately risky. Even Rashod Smith, like he might not make the roster.
Yeah.
I think with the 5th rounds, with the situation of Giddens, like if he's not good, then Jeremy McNichols was a 5th rounder I really liked coming out and didn't make the roster. And so it's not guaranteed, but there's that to me, there's like there is a group of guys that I'm just like sitting out on right now. If we get the information that like Ollie Gordon is the backup, I will hammer Ollie Gordon in post that information. I will be very aggressive, and I'm not going to care about like, oh, I didn't get 18th round Ollie Gordon, I'm going to have to draft 14th round Ollie Gordon. So what? Like, I'm going to have a bag of 14th round Ollie Gordon if I get that information. And, I think I can, if he ends up hitting, like, it's not going to matter the 14th versus the 18th if you've got enough shares.
And I pulled up here just like the running back ADP, like after Rico and Braelon Allen come off the board at 171, you are now in the territory of these guys either don't have teams like J.K. Dobbins and Chubb, or like legit ambiguity on, are you the running back 2 or are you the running back 3? Dylan Sampson, Jerome Ford, obviously Roshan, the Blake Corum, Jarquez Hunter situation, the Jalen Wright, Ollie Gordon situation. You're in all this like entire territory is like running back 2, you are a smash at this price. Running back 3, oh my God, you are a landmine. And that line is just so thin on a lot of these guys.
And that is why right now I'm taking a bit more of like the Darius Slayton's, Tyler Lockett type of stuff, which is not fun. But like if you're one reason to take those guys is because you're done at running back. And you're like, let me just get, take a guy who has a job at receiver. And you certainly could go like with a, Io Manor and kind of swing on some of the rookie wide receivers later as well. But yeah, there's a lot of risk in a lot of the 18th round running backs, which is to take it back to Marks, which is why he stands out to me a little bit, is that I don't think he's that risky. I don't think Woody Marks is going to get cut, right? That would be kind of shocking given what they invested. So, given the other options, given the risk that they come with, he kind of stands out a little. Now, it's not my favorite click in the world, but I think it's a good one.
All right, let's we didn't do a full recap of this team. Leone will be joining us here in a couple of minutes. Finish with a 3-5-8-2. Baker, Drake Maye, and Bryce Young. 5 running backs: Chuba, Trevion Henderson, Ramondre, Tajay Spears, Rashad White. 8 wide receivers: Neighbors, London, Evans, Tet, Igbuka, Jalen Coker, Slayton, and A.D. Mitchell. Tight ends: Travis Kelce and Hunter Henry. 3 pretty big team bets here on Carolina, New England, and Tampa Bay. I mean, we got a running back from all of those squads and at least 1 to 2 pass catchers on those as well.
I think it's a pretty fun team. I
Yeah.
kind of wish we took Harold Fannin just because I can't stop
Yeah.
drafting him. But like, I like the way we landed the plane anyway. I think it's fun to get AD Mitchell here, and we kind of could use like another hit at receiver. Mitchell's going to be kind of binary, right? Like he's either going to have a good camp, come in, probably displace Alex Smith, or he's like not someone you want. But it's not back weighted. Like he's got a lot to prove this summer. Hopefully he does. And then all of a sudden, an unlikely chaperone emerges from AD Mitchell.
Yeah. And, there's like the two things with AD Mitchell. And then obviously, like, can there be decent quarterback play is obviously the other. Even like AD Mitchell, there's multiple plays that I remember because I was playing him in DFS when he was like 3,200 and watching Anthony Richardson overthrow him on like wide open go routes.
Totally.
And it's like that could have been a pretty massive play that we did not get credit for. In the running back room's interesting too. I mean, only 5 running backs, despite our first running back being at, a little later at 58, and yet cornered the market on New England. Spears and Rashod White give you some nice floor with kind of a guaranteed role, and then you need Chuba to be the full blown bell cow to make that work.
Yeah, Chuba's just like very, very solid. Kind of a low end RB1 type of guy on an offense that's cooking, and then you're getting production out of New England. These guys are contributing for some spike weeks. You're winning. We took 4 receivers to start. So like the engine of the offense is not this running back room, but it's good enough. The third quarterback, there's some discussion in the chat about the Bryce pick. I do think like it should not be, ignored that we got a 30 pick discount on Bryce Young.
No. Yeah.
That's why we took Bryce Young. Like, and at a certain point, like, the rule of like whether or not to take the third quarterback, if you're getting a 30 pick discount on the guy and you have the running back and his number 1 receiver, and we also took Coker before we took Young, so we got a double stack plus the running back. Take the like, these are not like set in stone rules that you have to stop at 2 quarterbacks now. If you get a 30 pick discount on a stacked third, I'm gonna take it.
I have zero issue with that. I mean, the only conversation is like looking back at the Drake Maye and seeing like, Penix goes at 150. We could have potentially taken him at 135 as our QB2. And then we still would have been able to like push Bryce Young as a really cheap QB3. And then you take Charbonnet instead of Drake Maye. So you're basically playing a 2v2 on Charbs and Penix with May and Spears, which isn't an awful 2v2 in either direction.
Yeah, that's fine. You could go either way there.
Yeah, and like maybe like if Tootin falls, then all of a sudden I start to really prefer maybe the later quarterback scenarios. But the way it shook out, I think it's a pretty flat running back tier from Charbs to Spears or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's the third quarter. The nice thing, like the May thing, is like, if we take Penix, do we get Young where we got Young? Probably not, because we're thinking we're going 3 quarterbacks. So we're probably actually taking Young even earlier. So like in some ways taking May is why we got Young so late, because we're like, we don't need Young. We're not going to take Young. And then he falls and falls and falls. And then you're like, oh, look at that. So
yeah. Let's see here. I think Leone's going to hop on. He has some thoughts on the third QB thing. So we'll get Leone in here as well. But yeah, let's and it's fun to look back to. We did our first draft here, and it will not surprise you, Pat. We also took Drake Maye at 110 and then just took him at 111 here. So you're not beating those allegations.
I'm not trying to beat the allegations. I'm actually I'm the one making the allegations.
That's right. Leone, what's up? You have some thoughts on the QB3 thing?
Oh yeah, just generally, I feel like sometimes people are too trying to like tick boxes with the roster construction stuff.
Totally.
And in general, like if you just get really good values and there's some logic behind it, that can be a way to build some teams that are actually like unique and really good. And I just think people kind of go overboard. That's one of the frustrations sometimes with the manifesto. Sometimes when people interpret it, is they feel like they have to do these certain things. But I think the broader idea is to just be really flexible, get strong values, get the correlation in as much as possible, and that's actually how you create some really fun teams without having to do stupid stuff to get unique.
And to me, I don't know, my preference, obviously I want to have ceiling from my quarterback position. And sometimes you have to pay up to get that ceiling. And sometimes that means you can only do 2 quarterbacks. But my preference with the Best Ball Mania gauntlet in the 3 weeks is have 3 separate stacks set up with 3 quarterbacks. Your stuff showed that too, how powerful that is to have those 3 different stacks. So, if you get caught in that spot where it could be 2 or 3 QB, and then the room gives you permission via 30 pick ADP value, and you're already making a massive bet on that player's success to make the rest of your team work, it seems like a pretty good thing to tack on.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer for you guys.
There you go. Completely, I guess we settled that. Pat, let the people know what you guys got going on at Leg Up. I saw someone shouting out your pod with Bime4 over the weekend. I know you guys did a Dynasty pod with Davis and Sanderson that Davis was killing me on as I listened to that.
Davis was really in rare form for that one. That was amazing. Yeah.
But what else you got going on? Everyone's in the throes of Dynasty drafts right now.
Yeah, Dynasty drafts are cooking right now. Got some trade offers flying in quarantine auction. I'm gonna have to check out after I jump off here. Let's see. We got the Dynasty pod you mentioned. I've been doing some solo streams. I'm gonna try to do a solo stream tomorrow. So check out the Leg Up YouTube channel for that. And got best ball rankings, Dynasty rankings all over at legendaryupside.com. Check out the Sidekick at legendaryupside.com/sidekick. And I've been kind of teasing we're going to get eliminated rankings out when the schedule drops. So in about a week, you can see those hitting the site. And then I also say Matt Irby is going to have some articles out on the site looking at some regression analysis stuff. So look for those as well.
Awesome. Appreciate it as always, Pat. You guys can see Pat and I on Ship Chasing later this week, or actually you might not be on there, but
I'm going to try to make it, but yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to do a Dynasty mock draft, and we're going to have JJ, of course, late round QB, and then Danny Kelly from the Ringer joining us for that. So that'll be we did the pre-NFL draft, Dynasty mock draft, and now we'll do a post mock draft as well. All right, Pat, we will catch you around. Thank you as always.
Later. Good luck, guys.
See you, Pat.
And appreciate everyone hanging out this morning. Almost 700 of you watching live. If you guys are new here, please subscribe, hit that like button. This show will be running every Monday throughout the off season. I'll do a solo draft. We'll have Kerrane come on, then Leone, and then a rotating guest. Today we have Hayden Winks from Underdog coming on. And Leone, welcome to your second episode of Best Ball Breakfast. How you doing?
Doing well. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, I was thinking too. I thought you were doing me a favor agreeing to do this show, but knowing that you're in New York and not able to draft right now, really, I'm doing you a favor of allowing
you are doing the favor.
Scratch the draft.
This is my Best Ball Mania equity until I drive over the border, maybe pull a Gretsch situation, just write a whole bunch of slow drafts.
Exactly. All right. I did hop us in a Best Ball Mania draft. Got a few spots. I've been doing the 30-second drafts here for the shows, although I certainly appreciate getting to do the 30-second one or 20-second ones on my own time. That, Leone, has been a game changer for Cardio Club drafts, getting to have the 20-second clocks. It's a lot less painful than waiting for 30 seconds.
I feel like it's got to be up the heart rate a little bit too, though, during that workout. Yeah.
No, you know what? I've been doing more. My cardio clubs have been longer walks right now too. So I'll start mixing in some more intense cardio, but I've been doing more like lifting and walking and less running, which is like the opposite of you. You're putting in you're getting your miles in a bunch, it sounds like.
Yeah, I had a 50-mile race a couple weeks ago. So I haven't run in a few weeks since then, but got in a bunch of cardio.
How much? I was talking to a guy last night who had run the Boston Marathon, and he's like a CrossFit athlete guy, and he said it took him like a full week to recover from the marathon. How long did it take you to recover from that mega run?
I think it's been 3 weeks now, and I still feel like I'm not fully recovered. I feel fine, but when I work out, I feel like I'm sore after than I normally would be after the workout.
Yeah.
Like my recovery time from like even simple exercising seems a little slow. The race itself went really well, where I like nothing hurt as bad as I thought it would. But
That's
now
good.
there's just random things when I exercise now. I'm like, oh, maybe the adrenaline was just, tamping down some of the pain.
Yeah. Let's make this pick. I have more questions about he absolutely finished the 50 there. I think you posted a screenshot on your
did
Twitter,
barely, but finished.
Let's see here. We'll pick out 1-5. I did get the updated ETR ranks, at least from this morning, loaded in here. Bijan, Amon-Ra. I just realized you guys are high on Amon-Ra here, but I assume go Bijan.
Yeah, go Bijan. Yeah, we're high on Amon-Ra. I was talking to some people on our Discord about that versus Jefferson. And if you look at the last 2 seasons, they're pretty neck and neck in half PPR points per game. And it's kind of a weird discrepancy because we actually have Jefferson higher in our full PPR stuff, and you'd think it'd be the opposite. But a lot of that is just the touchdown projections we're baking in for Detroit is so much higher than Minnesota. And then Minnesota, we have throwing more, so there's more pass volume. But I'd probably take Jefferson over Amon-Ra, given like the vast, disparity in the ADP that early. But I think they're pretty close. I think Amon-Ra, for whatever reason, just seems a little boring to people and gets slid down further in that first round.
Yeah, and I think there's also you see like the push-pull with ADPs and teammates, and like there's still a lot of enthusiasm for Jameson Williams right now too, where that wasn't quite as pronounced heading into last year, where it still was kind of speculative. And now I think the market is just kind of like JMO is going to do JMO things. And in that regard, people feel like they're getting less of an alpha target hog with Amon-Ra. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm just trying to like rationalize the how the market views it.
Yeah, no, that can make some sense. I think like Laporta not taking that step forward though, in terms of earning more volume, just kind of further insulates Amon-Ra, having that path to the huge target share. And there are some routes. I mean, Detroit steamrolled through the regular season. Obviously, you want the offense to roll, score a bunch of points. They also won't let the foot off the gas, which is nice. But if they do regress a little bit and have to throw some more, we did see some game scripts where they're willing to do that. We know that's not their base kind of tendency, though.
Yeah, this is another point I hadn't really considered much either. Crutch is mentioning, Ben Johnson leaving a little kind of uncertainty there. I guess the counter is just Detroit feels like such a Death Star that they're going to be able to kind of survive that bump.
Yeah, it's fair to have that concern. There's definitely some uncertainty that's tough to build in with projections. It can go both ways, though. Like I know last year, Levitan kept getting super worried about Tampa Bay losing Canales, and then everything ended up fine.
Yeah. All right, we're about to pick at 2-8. Ladd, London, AJ Brown, string of wide receivers. JT comes off the board. So we're here looking at, Achane, Higgins, Bucky as potential options. Do you want to flirt with a 2 running back start or grab a wide receiver?
I want to flirt with the 2 running back start, I think.
Okay. Achane?
Yeah, Achane. Okay. We saw him get the full workload last year, which to me is super bullish. We know the efficiency can be there from his rookie season. He didn't have it last year. But I don't think that's, I think that's keeping the price. That's obviously keeping the price in check. But there's some fragility with that offense for sure. But if they can stay healthy on the O-line and at quarterback, I think the efficiency will return and the workload should stay pretty strong. We would have snap taken Achane at the 1-2 turn last year if you had said before the season what the workload was going to be.
Yeah. It's so funny. And it's a good reminder too, of just like, I feel like we saw the trajectory with Pollard too, where it's like Pollard goes from this electric space back to being this worn down bell cow, and then kind of finds his stride last year in Tennessee, a little mixture of both, some big plays and the workload. And then Achane goes from this electric space back to this worn down bell cow. It's like maybe things normalize this season. They bring in Ollie Gordon. Maybe they find the sweet spot for that workload that's not necessarily 25 touches a game, but it's still like 17 to 20, and he can rip off some big plays again.
Yeah, we lost the 3-4 turn Chase Brown picks that we had last week.
I took Chase Brown at like pick 31 or 32 in my first draft this morning. There's been some variability. I know like the leg up ranks have him at the 2-3 turn. Where do you guys have him? Do you have him?
We have him 28th overall right now.
Okay.
So
yeah. So I think with your ranks, leg up ranks, he's continues to push up. Kind of depends on the room at this point.
But Pat was talking a little bit about, the late round picks now. There's some guys that have serious job security risks, and someone getting around that is taking some running backs early. So we definitely want to go receiver here, though.
Yes. You want to grab JSN?
Yeah. I mean, with the year 2 breakout on JSN, I think they're going to maybe be a little more boomer running the ball than we'd like. But I also think we could see a lot of 2 wide receiver sets that are really good for targets per route run for JSN, and just really talented player.
Yeah. It was, we talked about when Gretsch came on ship chasing a little bit ago, and there was initially he was going like mid to late second in a lot of drafts, and starting to feel like pretty queasy about him at that price tag. And I know we're just talking about like a 5 to 6 pick fall here when you get him at 29. But a lot of it more just stemming around like, Darnold, Seattle, like implosion risk potentially. But I do think the mixture of, like you said, the breakout and the target floor, because even last year, like he had that big spike week game against the Rams that went to overtime where he looked like an alpha, but his targets were still getting shaken up like a good bit. Like there'd be stretches there where it wasn't like he was just a locked and loaded 10 target guy. It feels like he should be that this year.
Yeah, especially, obviously DK being out of there. I think it's going to be heavily focused around him. Goes from 93 targets to 137, all while seeing his yards per target rise by like 1.5 yards per target. So that's always, to see the increase in volume combined with the increase in efficiency at the same time is an awesome sign. It's not like it was just one or the other.
We start Bijan, Achane, grab JSN here. I had a question in the Discord, wanted to pass along to you. Mathology, our king who had the best regular season team last year in BBM and got nothing for it. He wanted to know your current thoughts on slow versus fast drafts EV. Obviously, you've referenced that in some of your previous work. He said that he saw you last year in the slow draft streets a lot, but that might have been more out of convenience than EV chasing.
Yeah, so if you're strictly EV chasing, the fast drafts, I believe I got to check the manifesto, were more EV, but not by a super meaningful amount. Like even if you did 150 slows versus fasts, you weren't getting like a huge amount of EV switch. So for me, it's just kind of like lifestyle, what's easier to draft for you. I prefer the slows, especially early on, like to try and really think through those late round picks a little bit more. Later in the summer, you get a little bit more on autopilot and you have more information. I feel like you're less likely, at least me personally, to make a mistake with those late round picks than I am now. So, yeah. There's also pockets of the offseason where you could get some legitimate news that you might eke out some slow draft value. This might be one of them, I guess, if you are going to end after the schedule release.
So we're on the clock here. DJ Moore goes. Zay Flowers, top of the ranks. Breece Hall is kind of the ADP value. How do you think we play
receiver? What's receiver by ADP in order?
By ADP is JMO, Zay, Sutton.
So I'd go Zay here. I mean, he's our top ranked guy and not that far off. Just don't want to ignore that wide receiver position after going RB.
What are your I see I see everybody's questions in the chat. I will try to get to these as organically and seamlessly as I can. But this is a good one in that DJ Moore comes off the board right before we picked. He's curious how you guys are thinking through the Bears offense. They add the two rookies. DJ Moore and Rome had kind of lofty ADPs. They're starting to come down a bit. Like, how are you guys thinking about the Bears right now?
Yeah, I mean, those are the offenses that can be tricky in terms of people's assumptions and appetite. I know we were talking a lot last week about, like, is that the perfect offense to kind of target in best ball because the uncertainty gives you upside, or is it a bad offense to target because everybody's kind of double counting the upside and getting ahead on it? But we've got DJ Moore like pretty clearly ahead as sort of an alpha and like a decent value right now, as with Rome having sort of that disappointing season, and then you bring in the two rookies. I expect we see a mix of like 2 tight end sets with them and 3 wide receiver sets. One of Rome or Burden probably pretty good. I think our ranks are way too low on Burden right now. That's something that I'm going to have our guys check and bring him up. I know in dynasty drafts, like him versus Golden is like a pretty tight decision. I heard you talking about that with Pat, and Golden's going, a decent bit earlier. Obviously, it's easier to foresee the runway, so I think it's right, but maybe not as wide as it should be.
Yep. Got some decent wide receiver options here. Ridley, Jeudy, Addison. Ridley by kind of ADP. You also have a Kittle hanging here. What do you think?
I think we just keep going with wide receiver. I think the boring, easy pick that I generally make is like probably Ridley, who's best by both ranks and ADP.
Yeah. Yep. You both ETR leg up slightly ahead of market on Ridley right now. Agree he's a strong pick. Always nice to put a cheap quarterback in your back pocket later with a stack there as well. I haven't had a chance to talk about Jeudy much recently. You guys are definitely higher than Pat and Co on him. I know Sean, I've been listening to a few podcasts. I actually haven't reviewed his ranks recently, but I heard him say he's surprised at how cheap Jeudy is in these early drafts. How have you guys been thinking about kind of that Browns passing game?
Yeah, I think people maybe are just over assuming how bad the offense will be. Obviously, we're concerned about the quarterback play and the offense in general. But if the offense is even average, you've got 2 guys there in Jeudy and in Njoku who are clearly the best targets and have no one in their way in terms of earning that sort of volume. So I think both those guys where they go are just really strong values on the volume. And they're not like bad players either, in my opinion, at least. Like, Jeudy, former first round pick, had a pretty good pedigree. Njoku, one of those kind of very athletic tight ends that breaks out a little bit later into his career. So it's not like you're taking scrubs just because of the volume. You're taking like pretty solid players with that huge volume potential.
Yeah, and it's kind of a theme with some of these picks around here. I feel like Olave, is a similar one, a guy we've historically drafted a lot higher, and it's more like the concern of the ambiguity of the quarterback situation than it is the quality of the quarterback play in itself. Because it's not like the quarterback play has been awesome. It's just like we don't know, and that makes it scary.
Yeah, and I mean, if you do get a decent bit of Flacco, like, yeah, that's that you're very happy if you get a decent bit of Flacco. Now, obviously, could go bad if you don't get Flacco, and because Flacco, we know we get pass attempts and we kind of get the certain game scripts. With the other guys, that stuff's more up in the air, and that's where some of the risk comes into play.
I mean, if you guaranteed me 17 games of Flacco, I would be very content to take Jeudy at the 3-4 turn. We're talking about Flacco facilitated a 50-point game with Amari a couple years back. We saw him like buoy both Pittman in downs for stretches there with the Colts. This man can get his best wide receivers the ball.
Yeah. Shocking. We just talk up Jeudy and he doesn't make it back. What were the odds?
Yeah. You guys are ahead of rank on him. This is about where he goes. I guess sometimes he drops, but yeah,
no, he wasn't going to come back anyway.
So we start with Bijan Achane. I like that you pushed us to do Achane there. I would have been like a little tentative that we might start to get behind and wanted to go T there. But I think being able to get JSN, Zay, and Ridley all at ADP there makes that look like a pretty strong start. And then this
I was gonna say we got
here,
a little bit lucky in terms of, the room didn't totally. Sometimes you get punished when you go RB, and you're chasing ADPs for like 6 straight rounds. So it's definitely fortunate that we were able to get these guys at cost, and guys that we liked like at cost.
Yeah, now we're looking again like Jakobi, Pickens seem like they could be good picks with us. I think last week we did Montgomery. You guys are high on him.
Yeah. What's it by ADP?
ADP, you're looking at Jakobi. Here, Laporta.
Yeah, I'd be fine with, I think, honestly, like Laporta or Meyers here. Laporta would be a reach on our ranks, but I think it's fine ADP construction wise.
I'll grab Meyers there at the last second, and we can see if we can push tight end a little bit and just play it more by ADP.
I know when you start RB, it can be hard to go to those onesie positions early, just knowing the capital that you already have not devoted to wide receiver.
One thing that's I talk about like the push pull of teammate ADPs, and just in my past 2 drafts, I mean, Jack Best just continues to go earlier and earlier. I think Best went at 109 in one of the first 2 drafts. But it is interesting, like Meyers doesn't seem to be sliding in tandem. And I do feel like those two, not necessarily over the course of the entire season, but definitely like in any one game, they have to be kind of negatively correlated with their target expectation.
Yeah. And we did see, Jakobi, it's the age 29 season, so he's not that young, but I think he's still kind of in those years where you're not worried about a cliff drop off. And we got to see a little bit more ceiling out of him. We always knew he could earn the volume, but the efficiency was there a little bit more. The last couple of seasons with Las Vegas, the touchdowns have been, obviously a little bit better.
This Luther Burden ADP rank can't be real, can it, Leone?
That's what I think we got. That's the one we got to. I was saying we got to. That ADP's off. I think we got to fix that one for sure.
Shakir, Ayuk, Reed, Shaheed are the wide receivers. Aaron Jones, Caleb Johnson. There by ADP, you're looking at like Pearsall, Reed, Shakir.
I kind of like Reed. It's just another mid-tier quarterback option for stacking too.
Yeah. Yep. We grabbed Jayden Reed here around ADP. Yeah, and we have plenty of options now, like tons of late QBs with Darnold, with JSN, Ward with Ridley, Geno with Meyers, and Love with Reed. So setting up for a pretty simple 3-quarterback late build there.
Yeah, I know when Pat won a few years ago, this was sort of the early in the summer build that he did to win, right? Like the hyper fragile where you kind of like you're going 3 QBs later earlier in the off season.
Yep. Ricky Shakir goes off. What's your? I was having a discussion with the chat in my first draft. I took Shakir and we were kind of talking about the Keon Coleman situation. Obviously, Mr. Bean over there frustrated with all you local media talking about the wide receivers. How do you think stuff shakes out with the Bills passing game this year?
Yeah, Shakir was more impressive last year than I expected him to be. I kind of thought he was a little bit more capped skill-wise. Between that and really nobody else performing well, like Kincaid underperformed, Keon underperformed, I think he's pretty solid where he goes right now. Like, this is going to be a good offense. You have one of the top 2 quarterbacks in all of the NFL. It's very affordable. I think even taking Allen early, you've got so many stack outs late. We're ahead of ADP on Keon, which is tough. He was a shaky prospect, and a lot of the negatives sort of came through his rookie season. So you definitely have some concerns, but he seemed like he was finding his footing a little bit before he got that wrist injury last year. And just based on what they did off the offseason, like, he's going to get every opportunity again. So I don't know, taking a chance on a year 2 guy in a really good offense who's like almost guaranteed to get the opportunity. He's the one I'm probably most excited to draft right now. Granted, I was in on him last year and it did not go well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was hard for me to get past the fact that Mac Hollins was like arguably their second best wide receiver for a lot of those playoff games last year, and now he's not even on the team. But I have to be careful because I don't want to get Shope. He's already having to look over his shoulder whenever he's on these shows talking shit, knowing Bean and his minions are after these guys.
Gotta be careful.
All right, we're about to pick at 8-8 here. We got 2 running backs, 5 wide receivers. Nothing here we'd necessarily want to do with quarterback. You're looking at like Shaheed, Josh Downs. You guys have Tracy up here fairly high by ADP. You got Igbuka.
I mean, I think Downs is okay, but we're kind of weird in a weird spot with the quarterbacks, but I think we can be patient there. I think Downs and Pittman are pretty solid values right now. Another kind of, I guess I think of the Cleveland offense, another one where just the uncertainty of the quarterback position. But these are 2 guys that each have shown the ability to earn like 20 to 25% target shares. So where they're going, I think they're fine. It's not like they have huge challengers. Obviously, they added Warren, but I don't think that's going to, overly impact the top wide receiver target share.
This question is killing me. What percentage of the pain should I take into this year's drafts from players burning me in 2024? Do you want to ask a human or do you want to ask the robot? How much pain do you carry over, Leone?
I carry over a lot of pain. I'd say what's a strength and a weakness is like I'll double down on a guy, as we've seen with Kyle Pitts last year. I will bring on the, if I think I'm right on the guy, like I'll bring on the pain. I'm not gonna avoid what I really feel just to block out the pain and be fearful of looking stupid if I'm wrong again. And sometimes I think Gretsch is pretty good at this too. Like if he's got a good read on a player, he's gonna stick with. This is a little bit of a tough range. Right.
Feels like it'd be a tight end pick for us.
Yeah, I think we likely want to go tight end here.
Do you have I mean, we have Zay if you want to like double up on that passing game or go Kelsey.
Yeah, or I'd be fine with Loveland too. I'm really fine with any of those guys.
Okay.
Loveland, I'm just thinking for stack.
That's true. Caleb, but then Caleb's not going to come back.
Yeah, we probably would have had to go Caleb and then try and cross our fingers on Loveland. So
I just I did Andrews for us just because we already kind of had the Zay bet there. And we know we're going to be going late QBs anyway. So we have Bijan Achane, we got JSN, Zay, Calvin Ridley, Jakobi, Jayden Reed, Josh Downs. So for starting 2 running backs, we caught up at wide receiver quickly. We had Andrews. We got all the quarterbacks in our back pocket in decent shape in that regard.
We get the
question.
I don't have a huge preference on those tight ends, but the GM did have some pretty optimistic remarks in regards to Andrews and his importance to the team recently.
Yeah.
He's flashed some of that upside down the stretch too. Don't forget he started the year with like coming back from a pretty bad injury that maybe some of us, myself included, maybe overly discounted in the preseason.
I know this is going to be a question you're going to get a lot, but we can continue to try to put a PSA out here depending on your plans. But Mark wants to know if you repeated the manifesto for last year just to see how much of an aberration it was. He's even saying you don't have to write it up, a full article or anything, perhaps even some bullet points. People want to know what's changed from that early stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's part of me that wants to take a look with the running back stuff, obviously being completely different than the previous 2 years. And I think I mentioned to you last week on the stream, I am like interested in like trying to tease out the signal and the noise of like what's just a sharp drafter doing, or is the strategy itself sharp? I'm not going to do a full manifesto. I might take a look at like the general roster construction stuff, but you'll see that elsewhere just to see how crazy the running back stuff was. And that's one where I feel like our ETR ranks were kind of in between. Like we were way low on like Saquon, that stings, and some of those guys. Some of the other guys, we were like a little bit ahead of market, and we were like 50-50. In hindsight, there's part of me that's like, we had like 4 running backs that all had pretty good pedigrees that switched teams and went to better situations. Like maybe we should have thought of the uncertainty in terms of the positive direction a little bit more. Because basically like all the running backs that switched teams hit, right? Jacobs, Mixon, Barkley, Henry, they all went to better spots. They were all like talented running backs too. Well, it depends who you ask, but they all had a pedigree at least.
Yep. All right, our team so far, we got still no quarterbacks. We got our 2 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 1 tight end. As we wait for this pick, I actually wanted to talk about this too when I saw your Tyrone Tracy ranking, and maybe we'll have to come back to it. But talking through the Giants backfield, Tracy obviously falling, Cam Skattebo going about where he was in the pre-draft contest. Let's maybe just put that on ice for a second here. I think we're still probably chilling at quarterback with all of our late options here, maybe looking at grabbing, another tight end like
I was gonna say, I
Ingram
don't mind going another tight end. If we want to go Warren for like play the Colts passing game angle, or just Njoku we just have as a great value, I'd go one of those two, I think.
Yeah, let's do. We were talking up Jeudy and the potential for being some good values with the quarterback ambiguity. Let's go Njoku here.
Just one quick note on Njoku. Guys like him who were like way ahead of ADP on, if it's me and I'm drafting, it doesn't mean I'm taking them every time. I just know we really like this player. I know I want to be overweight, but I'm going to play a little bit smart with ADP. That said, sometimes if you try and diversify too much early in the offseason and then the price changes later, I've had situations where you like end up underweight on a guy that you were like beat the market to. So it's kind of a balancing act.
I know that feeling, what you're saying. And it's like, that is a good reminder too, of like, you can always stop drafting a guy, but you can never like catch up on it, where it's like, if you have 40% Njoku through, and then you're like, all right, this is too much. Well, guess what? You're going to have 100 drafts to take your foot off the gas.
The Nico 2 years ago was it for me, where it was like, oh, we're way ahead on Nico. So I like, maybe it was too conservative early. And then his price rose so much that it kind of stunk to not benefit. What are we looking at quarterbacks? I know late.
Love just went slightly ahead of ADP. Maybe we should have done Love first. So we should pay attention. I mean, Herbert is setting up as a value. I mean, May, and we still have plenty of these late options too.
It's kind of tougher. I feel like
we could grab one of these guys to make sure that we have.
But we don't want one of these 3 now.
No. I meant like we could grab a May or a Herbert or something if you.
May's probably the guy that is easy if we do get screwed on stacking. Like he's got some rushing upside, and we got some late round receivers to take with him. Yeah.
We also could.
We're like probably a little bit below market right now on like Kyle Williams, but.
And I also I don't know if Pat's still watching, but as someone who's maybe take Drake Maye at pick 110 and 111 in back-to-back weeks, it is possible. You see here, we got him at 125, Pat. You can't wait a little bit.
Maybe I'm scarred from last week's show where all our stacked quarterbacks went in a row in between rounds. But I feel good about like at least getting one. Especially like if we take, A-Rich or Dimes like super late, that's going to be a shaky third.
That was my fault. We should have used the like flat tight end 2 tier as the spot to just grab Love. I don't know why we pushed that. That was my bad.
It's all good. All good.
But I wrote about this and I put up an article for Fantasy Life, just kind of like early thoughts on these drafts. And it's like, no matter how many quarterbacks you think, like, it's like, oh, there's like 9 quarterbacks I'd be interested in, or 5 of them would work for this team. And then it's like within a span of 2 rounds, 90% of them go. It's just like, you gotta pull the trigger at some point.
Yeah. And I always say quarterback's a position you don't want to be too detached from the market. Like we have the mid-tier quarterbacks, a lot of them a little bit overvalued. So if you're drafting purely off our ranks, you're not going to get them, but you got to just read the room at quarterback. It's not worth it to have, and you see this in super flex leagues. Like if you ever play that, if you think your super flex league like way overvalues quarterback, but you get completely shut out, you're screwed. It doesn't matter how right you were theoretically. So I try to keep that in mind, and I'm definitely willing to reach to avoid getting shut out.
Yep.
Backstops too this year. We saw last Yeah, you want to read your room, and it's very room dependent. We saw this last week though. The backstops aren't there. I think we ended up taking Dart late and kind of making something happen, but that's a lot more uncomfortable than it's been in previous years with some of the stuff you could have done.
Oh yeah, I mean, last year you had Bo Nix and Drake Maye, who were like guys that you knew were going to start for most of the season and had some upside, some juice with their legs. They were cheap to stack. What was it? The year previously was Purdy was still really cheap that year.
Purdy was cheap. I mean, there's stuff that didn't work out, but like we had Bryce Young, his rookie year, cheap. I guess last year too, he was cheap. Baker was like decently kind of cheap last year. Stroud, his rookie year. There were guys that misses. Like we had Derek Carr last year, but like there's not even like really a Derek Carr this year. I guess if you want to, I guess Show's probably gonna start a lot of games. It's just a lot of pessimism in terms of the points per game potential there.
Yeah, because even like someone like Russ has like way more bench risk than Derek Carr did last year at this time. All right, we are about to pick here. Quarterback, we could certainly make the case to like grab Cam Ward right now, a little ahead of ADP. You could grab someone like Benson or Garendo as an RB3.
I kind of think I'd just take Ward here. Maybe I'm being too conservative, but I think I'd lock in Ward and then play it a little riskier on the third quarterback.
I think that makes sense. Just kind of like what we were saying, good chance Ward doesn't come back to 148, potentially some teams with only one quarterback.
Got a rookie on the roster.
You did. We did. Who was our one? We got one rookie last
Dart.
week.
It was Dart last week.
Yeah. So there you go. The exception. Now I'm telling you, like, I'll go do like a Schnauzer draft or whatever, like on my phone, and I can get like Jaden Higgins or Trey Harris at like a reasonable price. And then I hop in my stream draft rooms. It's like, you're not touching one of these with a 10-foot pole. Like they're just not going to let me have them.
Yeah.
But we've chilled on running back a really good bit. Still have the Bijan, Achane anchor here. 2 quarterbacks, 6 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. So Garendo would have been really interesting to me at this price, but he goes.
We like just kind of missed.
This is so. If you think this is really flat, we could just grab our third quarterback. Penix is also fine on a Bijan team, I should mention, and he's a slight value too.
Yeah. Where are you on Blue?
I like him. I'm completely fine with him at this price.
I feel like it makes sense for our build where we can get another boring back later, right? But we've got 2 guys that we're counting on starting the majority of weeks. I'd probably take the ADP value with him. And that's sort of how I navigate. Like, I know systemically we might be a little bit low on rookies just because we think the market's a little hot right now. But I think there's, ways you can think through critically in terms of ADP value with need and roster construction. We can take a shot on a guy with some late season upside there for sure. Knowing that there's going to be at least another couple boring guys we can, take to get just like 1/3. We probably want a third running back we feel a little bit more comfortable with.
Yeah. I somewhat agree with this comment from Adam. He says, now's not the time to be drafting rookies. The part I agree with is we're going to see like a boomerang effect with some of these. Like, I promise you, Jack Besh, it's going to be cheaper like in a month. He's not going to be going at 120. I would not be surprised to see Jalen Noel and Trey Harris get a little cheaper as we get some projectable running back volume that like pushes up into where those guys are going. However, I also think players like Jaden Blue, to me, strike me as like a slow riser over the summer. Like, I would not be shocked if he flips Javonte in ADP at some point this summer. So yeah, I wouldn't apply that as a blanket statement. And we got him at an ADP value. Like generally Rashad White is going after Jaden Blue. Generally Ray Davis is going after him. The room gave us Blue here, and it fit kind of with what we were doing at running back. And Mike, we're also talking about a point in the draft where what's the analogy we always say? These are dollar auction players. Like, the taking a rookie at this point, like whether it's round 13, round 18, it's not a huge difference.
Yeah, I think your concern is like you take Jaden Blue, then you come back with, you get Jarquez Hunter later, and you just start, you take Giddens, you just start stockpiling these guys where a lot of assumptions have to go right, and you could end up with a lot of zeros there, right?
Yes.
Now, when you get later in the offseason, you feel better on depth charge, you could load up on a lot of rookies. But I do think if you're taking all rookies in rounds 12 through 18, at least what's available now, there's a good chance that you kind of overdone it and you've built like a too fragile of a roster. But there's going to be spots you want the upside to mix in. Like you got to take some swings. You just don't want to overdo it.
Well, yeah, and that's if you're getting values at that point, that's a huge thing. Is if you are just saying I want rookie upside, and then I'm forcing guys whose job security or draft capital doesn't warrant their ability, like. You don't give yourself much margin for error when you're, drafting like fringe RB3s just because you want the black box of the rookie upside. We're at a 2-3-6-2. We got Drake Maye, Cam Ward. We should be able to get one of Geno or Darnold here, which I think we probably pull the trigger as our QB3. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
I definitely prefer Geno, but we also took JSN as our first wide receiver, so you could make a case that that's tied to him. What do you think?
That's sort of what I'm wrestling with, is how much we have in JSN. But I think I'd go Geno. We have him ranked higher. His ADP's higher. I'd go Geno. The only thing that was even like making a conversation was you're making this bet on JSN. Do you just assume that Darnold is good this year in order for JSN to hit what we need him to hit?
Yeah. And I was funny because we were talking about that. We had a similar spot on Ship Chasing where we had CD and we were debating reaching for Dak for that stack. We also had Jordan Love, and I think we had Golden or something. So there was a stack there, and Love was the guy at ADP. And I always kind of default to the thing, like I think about our first round picks, like a CD through the DFS lens, 8.6K on DK. Like I'm not forcing Dak to stack with him because I'm like playing the CD alpha game. And it's like my lower picks that I actually want to lean into that correlation more of, like, not saying Jakobi is some like, volatile asset, but it's just being like, if that Jakobi pick smashes, like it's gonna be because we get surprising quarterback play. So I tend to kind of break the correlation ties to my cheaper pieces, actually. And maybe that's wrong, but that's just kind of how I've always thought it through.
No, I mean, I think that makes sense. Like we even saw with CD when Dak was out, how they were able to feed him with Cooper Rush, even with the offense being bad, and you get a high volume receiver like JSN, you can definitely see that.
Braelon Allen looks like a decent value, kind of like contingent upside play on this team. It's kind of
I'm good. I think we're gonna drop Lloyd a little in our rankings. Just FYI, I'd probably be, Braelon or I'd probably be Braelon here. I think Ford's okay, but the ADP gap's so wide, we should just go Braelon.
Yeah. And again, like thinking through, like, best case scenario, Ford is like what, kind of pulling a Devin Singletary where he kind of has a role, but is like holding off the rookie. Whereas Braelon on this double anchor RB start, it's like, I don't know, Brees gets traded, Brees gets hurt, and then like bam, like the value with Allen is pretty massive.
Yeah, there's definitely some weird Brees vibes that are hard to, and I love Brees Hall, but just there's some uncertainty there that favors Braelon.
Yep. All right. Yeah. We're through 15 rounds here. Appreciate everyone chilling here on Monday. We're going to have Hayden joining us here in about 15 minutes for a draft. I've never gotten to draft with Hayden, so looking forward to that. We'll get his ranks loaded in as well. Right now, we're drafting off the ETR ranks with Pat. We were on the leg up ranks. You guys update these pretty much daily, right, Mike?
Yeah, almost constantly. We're just constantly tweaking the inputs. We're not necessarily going in and like sliding guys' ranks, but we're constantly tweaking the inputs, especially now with the rookies, like really trying to get a handle on the upside cases. I said it last week, but these first few weeks, you're going to see the most kind of variation in our ranks day to day, just because it's hard to get it all set and right. But then the rest of the offseason will mostly be based on, new stuff, indicators in the preseason and whatnot.
How much does just to give people we all get anchored to ranks and ADP. I'm curious, if you change the market share slightly of let's say the Carolina wide receivers, the Thielen, the Coker, the Legette, if you swing the market share a couple percentage points in what directions, how many spots are those guys actually moving in a draft ranking set?
So those guys might move a lot if you're moving those those late round guys a couple of percentage points, because there's going to be a whole lot of guys that are pretty tight to one another. So they could move 20 to 30 spots on if you're talking 2 full points of target share over the course of the season. That's a big deal. That sort of shows you, I think, both the pros and cons of ranking things via projections. You want people to understand the fragility that if you move stuff even a little bit, change assumptions, it could change things a lot. I think it's good for people to know that. But it's also knowing that we take a lot of time and care to be as precise as possible. And even though we know we're not going to be right, that act of going through and trying to be super precise has netted pretty good results for us historically.
And I think that's also even hearing a guy could move 20 to 30 spots. It's also why the correlation is so powerful. Because you're saying, if I'm right about this thing, that Bryce Young is really good this year, well, all of a sudden that guy can quickly be worth 20 extra, picks of value relative to his ADP. We're about to be on the clock here.
There's a boring guy I want to take.
Okay, I'm excited. Who's the boring guy?
Well, I think we should take Demario Douglas and get
with the stack,
get some correlation
with May.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, he is still, a year 3 player, so it's not like he's an old vet. I know everyone's more excited about the younger players there.
Well, and Demario Douglas strikes me they want a guy like Kyle Williams to hit. They wanted what's his face, Jalen Polk to hit. I mean, Demario Douglas is going to still be a fixture of 3 wide receiver sets, even if Kyle Williams is good. You want that kind of guy who's going to be on the field a ton.
And those are the guys, again, going back to not to be too repetitive, but Pat was talking about if you take the running backs early, you can get guys like Demario Douglas who we're pretty sure are going to see the field late, as opposed to, some of the running backs that might be RB4s on their team. I'm not saying we're going to go into every draft in May that we do this and draft RB early, but I'm not going to shy away from it. Whereas in the middle of August, I might be afraid to go Bijan H. I might switch it up a little bit, just knowing how the rest of the draft could play out.
I think we're for sure going to take a 5th running back. The final pick is pretty flexible. I think we could lean into a 3rd tight end or another correlated pass catcher. What do you think about these last 2 picks positionally?
Yeah, I'm really torn on if we need a 3rd tight end versus an 8th receiver. We did leave off RB3 for a long enough time that I agree we want a 5th RB on this team. And we hit wide receiver so much in a row that it's definitely a little bit fluid.
You guys have a solid ranking on Chig as a tight end 3 stacked with Ward. Could make sense.
Yeah.
There's also, I do think Lloyd and Shipley. I mean, Lloyd pairs with Reed, but Shipley maybe a little bit better RB2 job status. But I think either of those guys would make sense.
Yeah, I think I would go Lloyd or Shipley here, and then punt kind of the pass catcher to the last round. You get Lockett. If if you wanted to take a really big swing on DK, I guess you could. As far as other stack candidates with Ward, we've actually got like 3 guys that we could potentially get in round 18.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of what I was talking with Pat at the end of the show too, of like with a guy like DK is like, is that the risk we want to be taking on this early in the offseason, or do we want to wait for some like OTAs before we know he's actually a thing?
I'd only take the risk at this point in time on the stack.
Right. Yes. Yeah. You're not doing one off. That's kind of how I've done it. Like done Pat Bryant on a Denver team. You know, I did, I think I did a Savion on a Green Bay, but I'm like not trying to go out of my way to target those guys right now with the uncertainty.
Man, I think we did drop Corm. I know we drafted him last week. We dropped him in our rankings a little bit. Still surprised to see him and Hunter go like back to back.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's well, and I was going through that with Pat too, of like this range is like are you the RB2 or are you the RB3 range? You see Corum and Hunter go back to back right there. They're not super fun clicks. I think the Jalen Wright, Ollie Gordon situation is kind of comparable a little bit as well. Yeah, so final pick, like you said, you know what? I haven't even like thought about Ray McLeod. We do have a Bijan team. Chig, obviously, with Cam Ward. We did see Tyler Lockett go.
Let's see. Can I see this receiver room we got here?
Yeah.
All right,
JSN, Zay Flowers, Calvin Ridley, Jakobi Meyers, Jayden Reed, Josh Downs, and Demario Douglas.
Yeah. I don't think I want to add Ray to this team, just given kind of the archetypes of receivers we have here.
Yeah.
I think I'd either want to take a swing. I'm sort of leaning the third tight end in Chig, but
yeah, that's kind of how I was leaning as well. I think we are like pretty loaded at wide receiver. And like you said, you're either taking on like a pretty big zero risk or just tacking on like a guy without probably much breakout potential at wide receiver.
Yeah, the zero risk guy that we're a little
White.
high on right now is Tesla in our ranks. A lot of that's an offense thing, and we are kind of on the fade side of Jameson Williams, but I would go Chig here.
That's where I am too. And I was mentioning this too, where it's like in these pre-scheduled drafts, like I kind of like leaning a little bit into the 3 quarterback, 3 tight end builds when it makes sense. Just get that bye coverage. Just be a little bit more resilient this early on with stuff. And if you're going to have that luxury pick and everything's equal, like getting that third tight end seems nice.
Yeah, and obviously it's an 18th round pick, so I'm not crazy bullish on Chig. We're probably too high on him last year, but I do think these like pretty athletic tight ends sometimes just take a little bit more time than other positions to break out. Whereas, receiver, if you haven't done it the first 3 years, it's probably not happening. Tight ends, not really the same case. You can have a little bit more of a longer runway with these guys. We had a good very end of the season for Chig to just promote a little bit of optimism there.
And you look back, we've had kind of those examples of the undervalued offenses that have hit. I think it was BBM3 was the Jags year where you had the Ingram and the Kirk. We had the Texans year. And what's one staple of those? It's like the tight end comes along for the ride when an offense, any offense really performs, but definitely these undervalued where it's like, there's just more opportunities for touchdowns when that offense explodes. And it's why I don't even mind taking cracks on like Jatavian Sanders on, Bryce Young teams where it's like, if the Panthers are really surprising, like the tight end's going to catch a few touchdowns in those scenarios.
Yeah. Maybe you saw this, I didn't hear, but like even Ertz last year, like got, carried along with Jaden Daniels.
Maybe my selective memory was wiping someone of that age, but yes, the point still.
But if he can do it, imagine what Chig can do.
And that is kind of always like, the decision you're faced with. And I've been seeing this a bunch too, like Dalton Schultz going completely undrafted. Like if I'm the CJ Stroud drafter, you're probably never going to catch me not letting Dalton Schultz go undrafted in a room. Like I just am going to tack him on to whatever Stroud stack I'm building.
Yeah, at this cost for sure. I mean, you're talking like, if you were talking like 14th round, I think there'd be concerns with how much they threw last year. And also, I think before Stover got hurt, like end of season, you had him taking a little bit of snap share, if I'm remembering that correctly. But, Schultz is entering as a starter here. So, there, I think those concerns are more than baked in with a guy who's getting kind of undrafted. One note, we do have the estimated BBM ownership in our rankings now. I wouldn't pay too much attention to it this early because there's not a lot of drafts being done. And if you hit on a low-owned guy that gets really good camp news, he's just going to get drafted a ton in July and August anyways, and that ownership's going to come up. So it's there. I think it's fun to look at. In a couple months, I think it'll be pretty valuable stuff. And we talked about contests like these, the way the pod structures work and whatnot. That's one way to get unique at the end of drafts. Is you don't even need like a 5%er, but you get some of these guys that are 30%. I feel like tight ends a particularly good spot. Those third tight ends to mix in, the guy who's 30% instead of 90%.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that data, it's like obviously the more the fill rate on the contest progresses, the more valuable it gets. To when you're doing those drafts a week before BBM locks, like those percentages are about as close to final as you can get, and you have a really good idea. And some of those players that we start drafting in August, like their percentage will be inherently capped because you can't go back in time and add them, and there's only a finite amount of drafts left in the contest. So that's when that stuff becomes really potent. I would be like a little careful, like you said, of just being like, I'm hammering this guy because ETR says it's 2%. It's like, well, if he becomes, the pick du jour in June, that number is going to come up quickly.
Yeah. And to be clear, the number we're showing is like the current estimated ownership, not the final projected ownership, just so people don't get confused. And
that would be a wild excercise to try to project final.
That would be, I think, impossible.
Yes. All right, I'm going to quickly recap this team. Then we're going to bring Hayden on for our final draft today. But Leone, let's get your final thoughts on this 3-5-7-3. We got Drake Maye, Cam Ward, and Geno. A little kind of punt QB build there. Got our two anchors at the top, Bijan and Achane. Sprinkled in Jaden Blue, Braelon Allen, Marshawn Lloyd. Wide receivers, JSN, Zay Flowers, Calvin Ridley, Jakobi Meyers, Jayden Reed, Josh Downs, and Demario Douglas. And then our three tight ends, Andrews, Njoku, and Chig. How did we do here? Even getting a second rookie there with Jaden Blue. Well done, Leone.
Oh, yeah. I like it. I mean, we got three stacked quarterbacks. I think some starts like Bijan Achane will probably be tougher to get later in the summer. And I also think they're more valuable now anyways due to the conversation we had about going three at both of the onesie positions early when some of those late round picks at the skill player spots are like so shaky right now. So I think this is I feel good about this. I feel better about this team than last week when we were scrambling a little bit on the stack quarterback and had a tougher spot late. Definitely went towards, for the most part, some pretty volume-oriented receivers. I guess we have the efficiency upside on the Baltimore guys, but a lot of guys that project for really good volumes at their ADP right now.
For sure. We'll appreciate you hopping on. If you guys want to get the ETR ranks, like we said, those are being updated in real time as they tweak stuff. Anything else you want people to know about over at ETR, Mike?
We're opening up our ranks to all the other formats slowly here, rolling them out. But for Underdog, we have the ranks so that you can upload them to the site for, not just Best Ball Mania, but Eliminator, Weekly Winners, Marathon, Sprint. Those rankings all come from the same projection set, so there's not a huge deviation, but we wait to the ADP of that particular contest can kind of change the positional thresholds around and just easy upload, having those separate rankings pages with the correct IDs for those contests.
Awesome. Well, sounds good. We will catch you next Monday, and good luck with all of your running and training and all of that good stuff.
Thanks, man. See you next week.
All right. Peace. All right. Welcoming on Underdogs, Hayden Winks. How is it going, Hayden? How's dad life treating you? Best ball summer is here, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we're taking a couple weeks off. The wife is going overseas for this like next week, so it's like full-time dad. So we're no videos coming on our stuff. It's time to lock in. Got the grandparents around though, so we'll figure it out.
Man, that is yeah, I remember like the first few times when like Lauren left and I'm like, it's like we had done it all together up to that point. It's like, oh shit, this is a different level, but you'll be in good hands if you got the family around.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I was just thinking about this. I haven't completed a full draft yet because now I've like fully transitioned to only slows, and I'm in like round 7 to 10. So I haven't like even seen like a round 17 draft selection. So I'm excited for the stream.
Oh, yeah. Can you just is that for like the company leagues are mostly slows for getting filled?
We'd sneak in some fast. But yeah, most of them are slow based, and just like for me, like right now, just like I could not devote like a straight hour to a draft right now. But the 20-second clocks would help that out. So maybe I'll start sneaking some in at night.
Quick question for you, because I had downloaded the CSV of your ranks and I'm not getting the compatibility on the upload. Have you been having any issues with that?
Sometimes you have to change the column name from like capital ID to lowercase ID.
Oh,
like on our back end, yeah, it like auto capitalizes the column name.
Let me try that and see, because I definitely wanted to be able to get those in here.
Dope.
Yes, that worked. Thank you for that that hack there. There you go. Little pro tip: if you download Hayden's ranks, you want to draft off them, change the big I.
The amount of times I've had to tweet that is like unbelievable. But yeah, we got to fix that. That's a personal problem for me.
That's right. And at this point in the best ball, like if you're drafting in May, you probably are somewhat of a CSV sicko that's looking at a bunch of ranks, aggregating. So you're probably good. But our August people are going to need some help. All right, I did just hop us in. Let me get over to the right screen here. 4 more 30-second one. Definitely take advantage of those 20-second clocks if you are doing cardio club, whatever. But for the streams, Hayden, I like to have a little more time to discuss things here.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
What stuff are you most excited about with Best Ball Summer? Obviously, the lobby is packed. I know historically you've loved the weekly winners format. What stuff is getting you going right now?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's just like really cool because like the initial rollout for weekly winners, there's like so many people that absolutely hated it, and now it's like still like one of our absolute biggest, and the fill rate on that one versus even the other tournaments is really great. So excited for that. And then the other thing that I was working on behind the scenes was this eliminator contest, trying to make it a head-to-head, which we finally were able to figure that out this year, which I think like makes it like the sweat really fun, and you guys will be able to like actually like head-to-head match up with Pete and everybody else. So that'll be really fun to do. So I was really excited about transitioning the eliminator over to the true head-to-head. And like if you make it to like week 11, like your sweats like head-to-head style are worth a lot. So it'll be sick.
And like you said, like you think about the pod group, like, yeah, sure, you're in a pod with maybe someone you recognize, and that's like kind of cool, like 6 of 12 or whatever. But now, like if you just in week 11 and all of a sudden you're matched up with Jose or whoever you want to shit talk with, and like you just built in an event into the middle of the season that's very fun.
Yeah, and like even like when there's just like 6 teams, like it's still a little bit hard to like figure out, okay, who exactly am I sweating and stuff. Where like this, it's just like, all right, I hate this guy on Thursday night. We need JSN or whoever it is. So yeah, it'll be fun. And then I just also think like as you advance through, like the last couple of weeks are going to be like the craziest sweats ever. So
fun. And just the cleanest sweats. You even talk about I of course love the finals for the best ball, and like you get there, but it's like there's still 539 teams you're competing with. To have realistic sweats is awesome. All right, we're on the clock. Gibbs is here. Lamb, Puka. I do got your rankings in here. You want to go Gibbs? You got anything spicy?
Let's go with CD Lamb. I probably need to switch those just after doing a couple of these drafts, just seeing that rounds like 2 through 7 right now. I do like a lot of the running backs. So getting CD Lamb there. I mean, he's competing with nobody.
Yes. Dak is really cheap. Ferg is really cheap. So there's all kinds of like fun ways to build out those double stacks. And I also like the humility from like all of our rankers. Leote comes in, is like, we have to fix our burden rake. Like it is May 5th, guys. So we got to afford all of our rankers a little bit of time to get these fine-tuned here.
Yes. Yeah. We went through our positional rankings on the channel this last week, and then like trying to transition those into like half PPR with every position included and stuff. And then also you start getting into drafts. You're like, okay, well, I've been drafting a lot of running back, like 3 running back builds through 6 rounds. Like maybe I need to figure out which wide receivers I want to break ties in favor of. So yeah, let's get CeeDee Lamb up there. I mean, when you're just going through like the projections and you just like look at the depth chart, it's like, I mean, my goodness, it's like literally like Jonathan Mingo might be there too.
I know. It would the fact that they really didn't address running back or wide receiver when everyone thought they were a lock to draft a running back and wide receiver is just it's classic Cowboys, but it's great for CD.
Yeah, and if it's Amari Cooper, like I watched a lot of Amari Cooper the last couple of years, it's not been pretty. So like if it's Amari Cooper, that's a good thing. There's no veterans at running back or wide receiver. It's like anyone that like won the draft, I think is pretty much going to just like actually continue on and like have their role pretty safe. And then we were also expecting all these veteran trades on the draft, and I don't remember a single one. So
I know
it seems like the depth charts are like more or less kind of how they are.
Are there, of like your early rankings and looking at projections, are there any situations that are just making your brain break right now?
Well, I mean, yeah, the Bears wide receivers, like you guys said with Leona, I mean, that's always really tough when there's like 4 guys.
Sorry, yeah, we can circle back. We're on the clock. Jacobs, T. Higgins, JT, McBride look like top of the board here for you.
I would be open to T. Higgins, or Trey McBride. Let's go with one of those 2 guys.
Okay, let's do T, and we'll see what goes here. Ball is Life sending me $2 to tell Hayden to bring back 20 round drafts. I don't know. I like the 18, but Hayden, can you be bought for $2?
We'll see. We'll see about the 20 round stuff. What's so beautiful about 18 rounds is the roster construction. Like you have to, like, you're punting off something. And when you have 20 rounds, it feels like you're like kind of have it figured out. With 18, you're like, all right, one of these positions I feel not very comfortable with. Also a little bit faster. And then, I mean, you get to round 18, like these guys aren't even adding points already. Like you get to round 20, you're like, okay, you're just making stuff up at that point.
Yeah. It's also, I guess now that we have the 20-second clock, like to me, the thing was always time. Like I like knowing I can get in and out with a 40-minute draft. It's like now I can get in and out with a 25 to 30-minute draft, but it is funny. It ultimately comes down to comfort. I'm with you. I like the idea of like, I have to sacrifice something. I have to go a little thin somewhere, like, and then I'm hoping that what I bet here is gonna be what it needs.
Yeah, I feel like a best ball tournament where it's like 12 rounds, almost like it's not exactly like the dailies, kind of in between where you have like a couple bench spots. Something like that I think would be really fun too. Just like completely mix up like the conversation about roster construction, like where like truly nobody knows everything. I think that would be kind of fun.
This is a fun one. Let the hate flow through you from Tyler. What's your early impression of the worst rookie ADP on the board? And then there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, what happens, like you guys were saying, is these guys scream up the boards, and then we realize, okay, that he shouldn't go that high up, and then we kind of reset. So it'd be some of the guys that are rising too far. Maybe RJ Harvey, but
yeah. Jacobs falls back to us here. Little ADP value. You have him at 15. You want to slam that or anything else?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And yeah, that's why I was breaking ties in favor of the wide receivers, just because I know I was going to like some of the running back price tags, like even Chase Brown, who I wasn't even on last year.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's like one of these situations where like, all right, nothing happened in the draft. It's Zach Moss on a restructured contract coming off a very serious neck injury. He's probably just going to be excellent again. So I would say like one of the big things I'm doing right now is whatever happened last year, like really kind of just paying attention to that, and then like let everyone else do the galaxy braining of why last year's production is going to like not happen again. And I'm kind of seeing that with the running backs. Like to me, like Jacobs and Mixon and these guys, it's like, man, like those were like legit first round values last year. And now like we're really trying to make sure like that's not going to happen. So I'm kind of middling in. I have Jacobs and Mixon and Chase Brown. Like these guys were excellent last year. And like, what if they're excellent again this year?
Well, and we can look at, some of these teams told us like in the draft that maybe they have some hesitations or maybe they want to bolster it. I mean, the Packers did nothing. They didn't even seem to like Rashod Lloyd much last year. Granted, he had the injury stuff, but it's like they seem pretty prepared to run it back exactly as they did last year.
Yeah, they definitely liked it. So to answer your question, I have some of my rookies, like a rookie tab on my rankings. Some guys that I have ranked ahead, Jarquez Hunter, Caleb Johnson are probably the two that I have ranked the highest ahead of ADP. And then the rookies I have below. I can't do Genty at eighth overall. I'm sorry. And then, Luther Burden, Jalen Noel, his price tag's still dropping. And then, I would say RJ Harvey's like the guy that's screaming up the boards that I'm not going to like lose my mind over. But
yeah. The one in my rooms this morning that I keep shaking my head at is Jack Besh. I saw Jack Besh go 109 in one of these. I'm like, I'm intrigued by Jack Besh, but I am out at those prices.
We'll get him cheaper than that. That is for sure. That is for sure.
We start CD, we start T, Josh Jacobs here. One thing I was noticing in your ranks, and I know you pounded the table for the elite quarterbacks. Here you have them pretty high. Lamar 24, Allen 25. I assume you don't necessarily recommend taking them there, but now we're going to get one of Lamar or Allen. Allen falls to us at 44, dude.
Yeah, I would love this. I'll throw in. I mean, like the only thing that we have to consider is that we have T Higgins, and like, would you want to push it to see if Joe Burrow goes all the way back around? He easily could, but I think Josh Allen's a good enough value to me. Like Josh Allen every single year is like a top like 20 guy, 25 guy, and points over replacement. So I feel good.
Yeah, and this is like, we're not talking about a slight ADP value, like a full round.
Yeah.
I took Lamar like 6 spots past ADP in my first draft, and that felt good. So like, I think that's the way to play it too. Like you'll get in some of these rooms, and to the Burrow thing, normally the Chase drafter is like a 90% lock to take him there with 2 cracks. If he came back, maybe we would semi-regret it. But on that ADP value with Allen, I have no issues.
Yeah, and I also think you can play like the uniqueness angle, like how many T Higgins teams have Joe Burrow a ton, and how many of them have Josh Allen? Not nearly as many. So I think that's kind of unique as well. And I think what makes the elite quarterbacks interesting this year is previously in best ball, like Lamar Jackson had Mark Andrews go ahead of him. Josh Allen had Steph Diggs go ahead of him. Those 2 guys in particular, like these guys, all their pass catchers are behind them now, or like with Zay's kind of like right in the same area. So I think their ADPs are just naturally lower than what they should be, just because they were kind of being pulled up by their pass catcher earlier in like the round 2 and round 1, Steph Diggs and Mark Andrews years. And now like there's nobody pulling these elite quarterbacks up. So to me, I think they're like extra valuable this year.
For sure. And again, I talk about playing the dailies. I mean, there were weeks where Josh Allen was the 103, Lamar's the 105. I mean, when you get to those week 16, week 17, those guys can absolutely be the player you need. The guy did troll us with Chase. He does pass on Burrow. I think we can still pass on it here. What do you like at running back or wide receiver?
Definitely like Chuba. I'll probably go with Chuba here. Go pretty balanced to start. I mean, he was really good last year, and this team's better. Like I think that Tet in town helps him out. The defense was so bad last year, and this entire free agency, they added defensive tackles. And then some edge rusher depth. That team's just going to be much better this year. And I'm pretty sure that Canales wants to run the ball a ton. And I'm not that scared of Rico Dowdle on like $2 million. And they have a running back, but that's like to be the number 3. So they really like Chuba. He's like a team captain. They extended him early. They gave him a lot of money immediately after like the Jonathan Brooks pick. And he's been productive every single time he touches the ball. So like to me, this team's only getting better, and he was better than this ADP was if you just look at last year's production.
Yeah, and like Rico, when you're investing in Chuba, like Rico is actually the kind of RB2 that makes me feel comfy in the same way like Zach Moss makes me feel comfy with Chase Brown. It's like I'm more worried about like the rookie like bearing down on you. Yep. You mentioned like the Jaquiz Hunter, like that's the stuff that you get a little worried. Like, what if this guy's just really good? It's like Chuba's not losing his job to Rico Dowdle.
Right. Yeah. And I think that they're like stylistically pretty similar players, and just Chuba's better and was with the team. And like he's already a team captain. Like the guy that's like structurally like the same type of player, I would not be worried about. But like with Kyron Williams, like you said, with Jaquiz Hunter, he's like legitimately way faster than Kyron Williams is. So just like the difference in type of players makes me a little bit nervous, because like if the coaching staff is just like, hey, like we need more explosives, and all of a sudden Hunter just is popping those off, then Kyron becomes like a real issue. Where with Rico and Chuba, it's like, all right, Rico's just a worse version of Chuba.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I've been taking a lot of Chuba. I think he was one of my most drafted in the pre-draft contest. Nice. There too. We're about to be on the clock at 6-8. We got 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Here we'll see what Jack Duck does. Looking at ADP, you got like Godwin and Samuel up there. By your ranks, Jennings, who was there, just got snapped off. What do you think here?
Don't have a strong preference here. I think Laporta could be interesting. His ADP is in line. I feel good about Laporta.
Yeah. Let's do let's grab Laporta. We passed on McBride there in the second. We can get Laporta at value, and then probably still gonna like the wide receiver we can get at 77.
Yeah. This is how a lot of my drafts go, where I'm kind of pushing wide receiver to some extent. Like I'm never punting it off completely, but I always feel comfortable with my flex being a running back or having the ability to be a running back. And yeah, we in a build like this, we'll either have 2 quarterbacks or tight ends. It just depends how early we take the second of each position. So we'll be able to draft an 8th wide receiver on this team.
That was a pretty big fall, I think, for Debo. Was it? Not huge. I guess he fell 4 picks past. How are you feeling about the Commanders' passing game?
I feel probably like right in line with the market. It's a good spot for him. Like he would not have been perfect for every team, but with Cliff and how much screens and RPOs and stuff and how like underneath that pass attack is, he'll be good. And there's like no depth over there really. Like there's not a wide receiver 3 we're concerned about. I would bet against Zach Ertz repeating last year. So there's volume to be had for him.
For sure. What Mark says, Hayden's underdog light being off is the chance for perfect symmetry on screen here. Hayden.
I moved, and in that move, the cord nowhere. Nobody knows where the cord is. So I have to figure out where to find a cord, and it's been a low priority thing.
There you go. I was actually just organizing my office the other day, and like the amount of loose cords I have that I no longer they like go to a camera or whatever, and it's just like I save them, and I'm like, when am I ever going to even be able to use these? Yeah, we could do Shakir with Allen potentially. I don't know if you want to continue to skew wide receiver.
Yeah,
what do you like?
Good. Yeah, it would be Aaron Jones or Shakir here. Yeah, let's go Khalil Shakir. We're more behind at receiver, so let's make the chat feel comfortable with our wide receiver pace. And let's keep it.
Yes, the chat's already getting. I made them queasy my first room when I did Lamar and got behind. But it's you can find stuff. You just gotta be patient, because as I was saying to Kerrane, there's like that space from like pick 100 to 140 where if the rookies go really early, you just like kind of have to sit it out.
Yeah. I'm also waiting for the analysis about the buckets of like if you were the top tier in wide receiver buckets, like you auto win from years past, and this last year it was the opposite. So we'll see. I'm curious to see how, like when the data comes out, like officially, like from like Leone's manifesto or whatever, and how much the running backs swung, if that's going to like change people's minds or not.
Yeah. Yes. When's Underdog going to do the contest when you win buckets? Could we have a contest called the Bucket Mania? And it's just whoever has the cleanest buckets?
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, it goes back and forth every 2 years. It's like, all right, you needed the running backs, now you need the receivers. Now you need the running backs, now you need the receivers. So, yeah.
Yes.
It is weird though. Like, real quick, just like I think you mentioned it previously with the dailies. Like, what percent were filled with a running back at the flex?
It was. I've been working on this. It was. It's like 91% of the winning teams had running back in the flex.
Yeah, I know like the roster construction is different there, so the math is going to kind of skew that. But like that's, I mean, you can take a little bit, apply it here.
Yes, that like I knew it was a running back heavy year, and when I was going through that, it was, and I mean it was just like there were some situations like if you were in smaller dailies and you wanted to like double stack, like the times it did work, it was often like it would be Baker with Evans and Godwin, or there was the 1 week that won the BR. It was the Burrow Chase Higgins in that case, but almost otherwise you just like had to be taking a running back as your third and like or your second pick. Yeah,
interesting.
All right, so we are about to pick at 8-8 here. I think we're fine on quarterback. It looks like Downs or Shaheed would be solid picks for us here. Igbuka by
I like Downs. I like Downs here. I think we can push Rashid Shaheed. Like this is like when I'm drafting, even though I have Shaheed ranked higher, like you look at the ADPs and the more likely than not, we'll have another crack at Rashid Shaheed.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we were talking that before. I mean, we've been doing it with kind of like the Browns situation, obviously the Saints. I mean, the Colts certainly fall into that bucket where it's like these guys are all kind of priced as if it's like really bad quarterback situations at this point, and there's like some significant room for upside if it's average quarterback play.
I mean, he's just, to me, he's really good. Like, it's, you see in the efficiency, his like per game numbers last year, and obviously there's like only like 6 games, but those are good. I mean, I'm not scared of Brandon Cooks. Like, he's got a role. So yeah, and he's also young, and the injury that he had was a meniscus repair and happened early enough in the season. He has like, no, that's not going to affect him at all this year. So I really like Rashod Shaheed. I think he benefits from nobody's drafting the quarterbacks and like pulling his ADP up. So like, if you're going to do like kind of one-offs at receiver, I kind of like it on the teams where the quarterbacks are being drafted way after, because like you're not playing that, like that stacking ADP loss of value.
For sure. I did want to check in the Chase drafter tried to push Burrow knowing we weren't likely to take him, but he did go unstacked to team 7 there, who is, you guys think we're going light on wide receiver? He just has Ladd through 8 rounds.
That's the way to do it.
So Jonu's a slight ADP faller. These are kind of the wide receivers up here.
It's all flat to me.
What do you like?
Yeah, Jonu or Kelsey. I'm not sure if you have, or I mean, I'll even throw in Loveland in there. Like, if you have a lean on any of those guys.
I mean, I'm kind of a sucker for a little bit of value. So I'd take Jonu. You have there at 92 rank, falls to us at 101.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, this is perfect. Like, to me, now we're done at tight end. And now we can start really focusing on the wide receivers. Like, sometimes I like with one of the onesies, like kind of double dipping a little early and then just being fully done. Like, they used to, like, tight ends, like, not even an option for us at this point.
Right. And again, it goes to the point, like, if you are, this is how I was in my first draft too. I had 4 wide receivers through this range, and like, you get panicky because it's like, all right, we're going to get our QB2, like maybe Jared Goff falls to us or Dak or whatever. We're going to grab, another running back. Like, you just have to be comfortable sitting out the pocket, even if you feel behind. Because the worst thing you can do is now draft a guy 50 picks ahead of ADP just because you feel like you need a wide receiver.
And people stop drafting the wide receivers eventually. Like, it's not like that they draft them early and then they draft 10 of them. Like, at a certain point, and it's about this point where everyone's like, all right, I got my 6 I feel good about. Like, now you're going to see less yellow in the next couple rounds. And this tier gets really flat. Like, this wide receiver 40 to wide receiver 65. We're talking about like a point per game in the difference there. And in best ball, when you're just like only taking their spike weeks, like, really, like, there's not that much of a difference in projections over the course of the year on these guys.
I do not know if I agree with this take. If Daniel Jones is starting week 1, heads will roll. I mean, they brought him in so their heads wouldn't roll if things went bad. Like, he is their insurance to be like, no, we took care of it. I think if they're turning to him, it's so he can be their savior, not to, wait for the axe.
What was weird about the comments there, they did not say the best quarterback is going to win this job. They said the most consistent, which is guaranteeing pretty much that it's going to be Daniel Jones. Like, you can make the argument that Daniel Jones is more consistent, but Richardson's highs are higher, but they don't care about that. They want the most consistent quarterback. That's going to be Daniel Jones.
Let's see here. Jalen Warren is a pretty big faller here, but you got Najee ETN. What do you think?
I kind of like ETN, but Warren's good with me too. All these guys are about the same.
Yeah. Let's go with your rank. Like, you have a bullish rank on ETN. I mean, it's been an interesting back. I mean, the team is going to be so much better this year. How are you factoring in, obviously Tootin? How are you figuring Bigsby factors in this year? Where are you at there?
Complete uncertainty, but I just come down to it like, all right, ETN's the former first rounder, new coaching staff. Do they just like look at the former first rounder and they're all right, let's try to make this thing work, versus Tank Bigsby, who, like, you can make the argument that he is better, but we'll see if Travis Hunter's like big play ability comes back a little bit with, the entire offense looking better. And also with Liam Cohen, he was so good using multiple backs. So I feel like the Travis Etienne flare, I'd be pretty surprised if he was like the 3rd guy and getting no fantasy points. Like, we had Rachaad White and Bucky Irving last year, who would have both probably paid off around this ADP, and I do think there's at least some theoretical upside that like new coaching staff figures out for him a first rounder, even if I don't think that Travis Etienne is very good.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like if you do get, I mean, I'm bullish on Tootin, but it's still likely something that is going to take time to develop. I mean, like in Travis Etienne's skill set is even more robust than say Rashad White in that Bucky Irving comp, where like it will be a complementary thing as opposed to like getting completely pigeonholed into one specific thing.
Yeah, I think that Bucky showed like a little bit more of a chance to be more of a bell cow volume rusher than like Bajel Tootin, but we'll see.
Let's see here. Christian Kirk falling past ADP. You have a nice rank on him. I think we can probably continue to push quarterback a little bit if you want to lock up Kirk, or is there something else you see?
No, that makes sense to me, getting a receiver here. Yeah.
I jinxed us. I did not think Chris was going to auto timeout him as his wide receiver 7 there. Kyle Williams, Hollywood Brown are also in play here.
That's cool with me.
Do you have a preference?
I'll probably Kyle just for
get some upside.
Yeah. We kind of need we need to win with one of these wide receiver selections.
I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think these rooms would allow me to draft rookie wide receivers anymore. So what a pleasant surprise that is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, how are you thinking about like Diggs in that offense? Obviously everyone's projecting a leap for May, but like the Diggs Williams dynamic is kind of interesting if it works out.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is it's just kind of those two guys. Like Pop Douglas, we know what he is. Kyle Williams, like an outside wide receiver. So, and he had some really nice deep threat moments last year and really good yards after the catch. Diggs sounds like he's like very far ahead of pace. I mean, everyone kind of says that until like practice start rolling, but everything looks like they're on pace there. So it can just be like those two guys. I think they're going to like not target Hunter Henry as often as they have in the past. So like, yeah, I mean, if Kyle Williams is as good as I thought he was, and that many people thought he was, then yeah, like he can be an absolute home run. There's like nothing in the way. Just, is he good or not? And I thought the answer to that was yes.
I think of like these second year wide receivers, we're kicking the tires on Legette, been drafting a little 80 Mitchell at the end. It's just like, has a wide receiver ever gone from just being relevant to unrelevant as fast as Jalen Polk? I mean, holy cow.
Yeah. I mean, that was self-inflicted. Yeah. It seemed like there's a lot of things going wrong with Jalen Polk. He was an interesting prospect too, because like the comps were always like, he's kind of like the do a little bit of everything type of guy, but like nobody was ever like, he's super good at this particular thing. And like sometimes that does work out and like they're just like eating a bunch of snaps. But if you start dropping the balls and like you're like, no one's like pounding the table that you're really good at one particular thing, like all of a sudden you're just like, okay, then why are you actually on the field again?
Well, hopefully we didn't play too fast. I mean, we have Josh Allen, so we don't have to really panic about QB, but I was tilting slightly to see Dak go unstacked, especially because, Mark, you could have double-tacked Dak and Ferguson there, and you took Kincaid and Dak as if you're trying to draft a worse version of the team Hayden and I are drafting right now. So what are you doing, Mark?
Yeah, what the hell? We should have a trade. You get about 30 minutes after the draft. You get 1-for-1v1 trades. It must be like within 15 picks.
All right. Gonna backstack. But yeah, you had Fergie there. People are getting excited about Kevontae Turpin. People are now taking unstacked Dak to set up the Kevontae Turpin pick. That's where we're at.
That's 20 round behavior.
So yeah, we could do like, we don't have to force quarterback. We do have Jonnu there. Looking at these running backs, Bigsby, Benson, David. We did ETN, so we probably wouldn't do Bigsby.
Is there like any wide receivers like that we just like? Just like,
do you like Legette, Tillman? Either of those could be nice.
Tillman. Let's go Tillman.
Okay. Yeah, let's do Tillman there. We could also keep a light on for Joshua Palmer on an Allen team.
Yeah. I mean, Cedric Tillman, like it was only like about a month. I mean, he was a wide receiver 3. So, and he should be back. It was concussions. So I'm guessing that he'll just be back and ready and like be the number 2 receiver on that team. So yes, we'll see. He was at least productive last year.
Yeah. Yeah. He's year 3, right? No, this year?
It's either 3 or 4.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, again, the same thing where, I mean, if you get a good chunk of the season from Flacco, I mean, Tillman, Njoku, and Jeudy are going to cook if we get a lot of Flacco.
Yep. Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so.
Who do you think gets first crack if,
Oh
when Flacco doesn't go? Do you think it's Gabriel or do you think it's Sanders?
Well, I'm curious if Pickett's going to get traded before the season or if they are like committed to Pickett. Like Flacco's the adult veteran. It feels like they like need that. Pickett's like kind of in between, but I'm like Pickett and plus 2 rookies sounds pretty risky. Like who's learning from who? That would be a fair question to ask. So yeah, I'm going to guess it's going to be like Flacco, but I feel like they would want to see a lot of Pickett and Gabriel. I think the Shador pick was like not fully up to the coaching staff, and that the coaching
you could tell by their like clapping.
One of the claps, yeah. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of Gabriel. Not that I'm drafting any of these guys; it's too hard to tell. But I'm going to go with Gabriel at the end of the season.
All right, so Tua now comes off here, but again, I'm still not super worried about quarterback. We could grab Palmer, Legette here. What do you think?
None of we don't really have any stacking partners with any of the quarterbacks, but probably just Xavier Legette and see what happens.
Yeah, we might be able to push there. The thing is we take Palmer or Legette. The nice thing too with Allen is we still can, this could be a team where you take like a Jackson Dart to pair with him and just be like, we're playing Allen to hit our lineup every week. And then let's just take a big swing at the QB2 spot.
I mean, especially he was our 4th round pick. It's not like we drafted Josh Allen at 23rd overall. I'm like, I mean, we got some guys to support him like with the rest of the roster. So
yes. It would have been nice if we could have gotten, Love to come back with Jacobs or obviously Dak with CD, but when you have Allen, I think you push it. You push that QB2.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, here's the team for our audio listeners so far. Josh Allen at quarterback, Jacobs, Chuba, and ETN at running back, 7 wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Khalil Shakir, Josh Downs, Kyle Williams, Cedric Tillman, Xavier Legette, tight ends, Laporta, and Janu. So again, everyone freaks out, and we're already up to 7 wide receivers. We're to the point where we're weak at running back. Everyone's freaking out.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the way we have to land this plane, we got to figure out a quarterback stack by the end of this. And it's going to be interesting because we're probably not drafting another tight end. We probably got 1 more receiver to go. So we're going to have to think through this.
That is true. Yeah. And I don't mind the stacks with the running backs either. If something opens up there, and it does look like we've hit this wall where people spent a little earlier on quarterback and are now kind of pushing the QB3s because we're getting some guys starting to fall past ADP a little bit. Penix has been a weird faller lately. People were referencing him going at like 190 in a room, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's just so shocking because there's so many guys that go ahead of him. Like the Bijan team, the Drake London team, and the Darnell Mooney team keep passing on him. It's just like, it's harder to it's more understandable when there's only like 1 guy to stack with. But when you have like there's so many teams that are probably looking at Penix, it's like shocking.
Yep. This round 14 is apparently the tight end round. We see Strange, Likely, Pitts, and Ertz all come off the board here.
Good news for us.
Yes. Yeah, I think we're going to be fine. I'm glad we stayed patient. And I do think probably getting the quarterback in this range because, we're looking at your ranks. All the best picks are quarterback, ADP, all quarterback. And we know it can get we could do the dart thing, like I said, but I'd rather get like a starter here. I mean, Bryce Young with Legette and Chuba would be very nice.
Yeah, we'll see. Come on.
I'm trying not to jinx this here. There's no reason in the world for this drafter to do it, but I have said that before. And Ben,
the reason might be this stream. It might be the reason.
All right, he goes one up. There we go. This worked out well. I love the Chuba Legette works out nicely.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah, I mean that team just is gonna be better. Like Bryce closed the season out strong. The defense is better. You add Tet, which like could be just a force multiplier. The offensive line's all back. The coaching staff is back. Like I don't see how this team is like going to be nearly as bad as it was the last couple of years.
Yeah. And I mean, like their offense at the end of last year, some of those games were just complete shootouts. And that was with like no alpha wide receiver 100%. You put Tet into that. And they like didn't invest that much in the defense. They're like, let's just play shootouts. Like, I love how everyone in the NFC South is just like, fuck it, let's just play shootouts in the domes in the warm weather.
Yeah, all those teams are so bad. And also Bryce runs. Like he runs a decent amount. So yeah, I don't understand why his ADP is low. And I say this, I've taken some decent digs at Bryce Young over the last couple of years. And like now I'm like, all right, I'm pretty much all the way in on this offseason.
I was really stoked with the Tet pick, because it's just like they're looking around and it's just like you see what the Texans do for Stroud, you see what the Bears do for Caleb Williams. It's like, if it's on the fringe, don't let that be a question mark. Like the weapons, be like, don't go away being like, well, what if we had just gotten Bryce Young weapons? Like, go fucking get him some weapons and see what happens.
But you got to figure out if he's any good or not. Like, and the only way to do that is to surround him with some guys that can play. So, no brainer.
I think we're going to be back in the market here for a running back. Dylan Sampson is pretty interesting here. We do have Cedric Tillman, so a couple of Browns. Obviously, some of these rookies here. Anything else you're seeing?
No, that's good with me. I really like Dylan Sampson pre-draft. Don't know exactly why he fell so far, because he was like pretty liked consensus rankings wise as well.
We're gonna get auto sniped on him because this guy's autoing right now. Yeah, I knew it. You're killing me, Chris.
Okay.
We got the two Rams wide receivers. I'm fine throwing out ADP here. Whoever you like up in this range.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys are gonna be back around to us. I'm trying to think, like, do we want to do like a Diami Brown or like end our wide receiver, like go with a wide receiver here? I mean, we can just do like the Keenan Allen, like see where he signs any of these guys.
Yeah, let's do. Oops. Sorry, I did not. Crap, I didn't mean to.
That works. I mean, I'm anti Kyron this year, so like Corum and Jarquez. Let's just like see what happens.
Yes. For the audio listeners there, I auto timed Corum at the last second, trying to get Keenan in there. But yeah, so what did you make of the Hunter pick? I guess more as it pertains to Corum than it does Kyron.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I feel like the pick was just more signal that they can't go into the year with getting zero explosives from their running back. And then last year he was also fumbling the ball. So like, you can't be like Mr. Reliable, but also like have a fumble issue. And like his efficiency numbers were definitely down this last year. So I think it's just more of a competition, and there's a chance that Corum wins the job. But I just thought like the another running back investment was just more about like, hey, the running back position for us is just not good enough. So I think there's open competition.
Yeah, and couldn't you see a scenario where it's like Corum remains kind of like the true handcuff to Kyron, but then they're trying to get Hunter snaps for, like you said, the explosives, be that change of pace guy, where Corum's contingent value remains pretty solid.
Yeah, and I think Corum just mostly banged up last year. I'm not sure if we got a big enough sample on him to be like, he's for sure not going to be an NFL player. Now, it's not good to be banged up as a rookie, but we'll see.
I feel like that's the theme of so many of those rookie running backs last year. Like you could put Benson in that bucket, Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd, where it's like,
what the hell?
You can't tell. Is it injury? Is it the team didn't fully trust them? Did they just need more time? I feel like that's a huge riddle with how to approach these guys.
Yeah, definitely so. Yeah. So yeah, to me, just I'm not drafting any Kyron, and then I will make sure I have some darts at both Corum and Jarquez. And I think that those guys aren't going to like rise too much. They'll both probably be in the 190 plus range because both of them exist, which will help that like even with some camp buzz, I don't see one of those guys completely vaulting up. I think we're going to be able to have some good dart throws with those guys like the very end of the rounds. What do you,
the chat's trying to connect dots on Keenan. Do you have a logical landing spot? Do you think he's just waiting for camp? How do you think that plays out? Or we can make our pick and then discuss that here. I would have no problems like double tapping the Rams running backs on your thing of like betting against Corum. Marshawn Lloyd. Yeah. What do you think?
That'd be cool with me. Yeah, I mean, I think Diami Brown, if we want to go with another receiver, is kind of, they at least paid him, but Alec Pierce, Alec Pierce is productive last year. Let's go Jarquez though. I think let's
go Jarquez, and I guess Pierce is the slight faller. But let's do do Hunter. I think I like your angle of like bet against him and doing it at a really cheap price and knowing that like one of these guys could be a really big hit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we drafted our top running backs early enough. We're banking on those guys to get a lot of points. Like we're looking for a flex down the stretch, and I think paying a 2-for-1 price on the upside of that is totally fine.
But sorry, yeah. What were your thoughts on Keenan?
Oh, well, he had I think it was on a podcast, and he said that he wants to be in Chicago, in Los Angeles, or retire. Well,
okay.
I mean, since that podcast, they drafted Luther Burden. Devontae Adams signed with the Rams, and then they added Trey Harris with the Chargers and Mike Williams. I mean, you can't be the Chargers and be like, all right, Keenan and Big Mike, welcome back. Let's bring both of you guys back. Either he was lying and he's going to sign with like, the Jets or something, or he's going to retire. So
yeah,
he's not getting steamed up. I don't care where he lands. Like, let's say it's the Jets. They have no other wide receivers. Like he's probably going one.
He's going to earn targets if he plays football.
60.
Yeah. Does he want to play football?
Yeah. And that's a fair question.
You like Miami? We get our 8th wide receiver here.
That's cool with me. Yeah. Slayton, Miami, either one of those guys.
I always like the little teammate pairings. We took ETN, like take a couple stabs on this offense, improving there.
Yeah. That's fun.
Appreciate you, Mark, with the gifted memberships here. Check out the premium streams. If you guys are YouTube members, I had Coach Speak Index on After Dark on Saturday. I know Hayden and Josh, big fans of the Coach Speak Index there. Sifting through all the like post NFL draft, Coach Speak stuff. Did anything stand out or get your spidey senses going?
I leaned on Josh for that. Josh was watching all the press conferences. One of the things Ben Johnson was just talking about effort from his receivers, and specifically effort when you're not getting the ball. And like, to me, that was a direct shot at DJ Moore. And then since then, he drafts a receiver and a receiving tight end early. Like to me, and all of that in combination makes me a little bit nervous about DJ Moore. Like it was just so pointed, like talking about literally effort when you're not getting the ball. Like that to me is like only DJ Moore. Like that was not a Rome Odunze thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Greg brought that up on Saturday too. And it was like, I was thinking it through where it's almost like you have DJ Moore, Luther Burden, who's both have kind of had those questions. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like they're putting them together, being like, one of you figure it out because the other one will put you on the bench.
Yeah. It's pretty great. I like addressing it early on. Like I'm adding competition because I didn't think that you put any effort in, like get the most out of them or you'll be on another team next year. So I kind of like it.
I like how my chat has turned into like a classifieds for various drafts. Need 2 more for a marathon. I think Randazzler's trying, or no, he wants a 12-round puppy. Okay, I thought he was trying to get a puppy filled right now. Yeah. It's interesting. I heard some people talking about like the fill rates are a little slower just because there's the 20-second and the 30-second. But I will tell you the hack, if you want to get them filled, like the sickos right now are in the 20-second drafts. So like if you want to get in, there'll be probably more liquidity for the 30 seconds as the summer progresses, but I think you'll have better luck with the 20 seconds right now.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we had like a little button to tell how many seats were open per slot. I think that would be a nice addition. So we'll see what they do about that.
I know, yeah, and I think I know with the daily stuff that feedback has been passed along to the dev team, and now with Underdog really beefing up the draft game side. Seems like that kind of stuff will be in the pipeline. All right. Who's going to be our Mr. Irrelevant here? Ooh, man, Hayden, we got a 2-5
still there. Jesus.
2582. Yeah. Darnold still here. I think you could make the case for running back or wide receiver for us.
Yeah. So
be open. I had been saving the Woody Marks take for you as the biggest Woody Marks bull that I know. But
he's
Tesla
fine.
Could be in play.
Yeah, I mean Tesla is pretty interesting. It's a complete dart throw. A part of me is like, is Richardson just like we have downs? Like, do we just go Richardson and just be like, what happens in the 10% outcome that he's like a guy?
We could just take I mean, that's a huge value, and we have the Colts guys.
Yeah, I mean, he's not getting cheaper than this, so
No, I didn't even notice him there, honestly, until you pointed it out. I mean, this is the same spot that Pat and I were in where we took Bryce Young as a QB3 because it's like we had already stacked it up and then he went 40 picks past ADP or whatever. So that's kind of a fun little thing. And we kind of found ourselves in the same spot where it's like you're taking a real high variance pick at any of the positions. Might as well take the huge ADP faller.
And we've at least seen him be like the guy you need in a week. Like how many of these guys, like is Isaac Tesla going to be the guy you need in a week this year? I mean, the odds are lower than it is with Richardson. So, and then at least we got the downs. Like that was a little correlation boost. So
what of those, because those have been the guys that have been knocking around in my head a lot of how to view them for best ball right now. Basically those 3rd round rookie wide receivers where it's like, oh, the draft capital kind of surprised us. Like some decent fits, but then it's also like they could be Jalen Polks of the world. Like of those guys, you know, your Teslas, your Bryant, Savion, Felton, any of those guys intrigue you the most?
I liked Tesla and Pat Bryant pre-draft. I was stunned that they went in the 3rd round. I'll probably be Tesla just because like that depth chart doesn't have a lot of depth. So that would be the one where it's interesting. And he also played in the slot in college, but he's like 6'2", 215, and he's really athletic. Like he could play outside at the next level. Like you don't really see inside to outside very often, but he at least has like the athletic traits and size to go do that. And like that's the spot that they're looking for with Amon-Ra in the slot. So there's like a path to playing time for him. He also caught like 28 passes and he's like 23. So there's some cons there. So I think he'd probably be the one that you take the dart throw on the most, and then I'd probably put Pat Bryant second just because he fits that offense.
Yeah, and what did Sean Payton called him his new Michael Thomas?
Yeah, that was the answer to your question previously about what the press conference. He's like, it reminds me a lot of Michael Thomas. I was like, whoa.
Yes, the king of hyperbole. I know you could go through all the quotes and it's like, all right, Evan Ingram is his Joker. Yeah. RJ Harvey is his new Alvin Kamara. He just drafted his new Michael Thomas. He's
like, the rest of the league is dumb. Like you're just giving me Hall of Fame talents here. This is easy.
Seriously. All right, I'm going to recap this team here and get Hayden's final thoughts real quickly. Martin, I believe it was Mark who gifted you a YouTube membership. Thank you, Mark. Yes, there is the Deposit Kingdom Discord. Great place to hang out and talk best ball. There's channels for all the sports, all the daily games. The Badge Bros crew is in there. The link's in the description. Deposit Kingdom Discord. You can hop in there. And then the Saturday or Friday night, whenever I do those on the weekends, are the After Dark shows. All right, Hayden, this is the team. Josh Allen, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson at quarterback, 5 running backs, Jacobs, Chuba Hubbard, Travis Etienne, and then the double running backs on the Rams there, Blake and Jarquez. Wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Khalil Shakir, Josh Downs, Kyle Williams, Cedric Tillman, Xavier Legette, and De'Ami Brown. And then our 2 tight ends, Laporta and Jonnu. I love how this turned out. What are your thoughts on this team?
Yeah, really interesting build. We got all of our quarterbacks after ADP, and they're all stacked. So it looks funky to have Josh Allen with a 3rd quarterback, but like I know that Richardson's like in Best Ball Mania, like his ceiling is the highest of everyone available. So I understand that one. Kerrane plus Hunter, that's interesting. And then I would say like my favorite part about it, the wide receivers, we took them late. I have no like worries about playing time with these guys. Like these guys are going to be on the field, most of them in 2 wide receiver sets. We'll see about not with De'Ami Brown, but the rest of those guys I feel like are going to be eating a ton of snaps. So
yeah, and I like, there's different versions of upside, and obviously upside comes at a premium in underdog drafts, but having waited on wide receiver to get the string of Williams, Tillman, and Legette, which all of them represent upside scenarios, like they're not just like boring vets who we know exactly who they are. Like that felt nice to be able to get those guys there and give us some like legit home run swings in the late portion of the draft.
Yeah, we got really lucky with the Bryce Young pick. I will say that. If we didn't have Bryce Young fall to us, this team, we would have had a couple more extra panic picks down there, but we got lucky.
Yeah. And it is funny how it swung, where I do think you could say the weakest part is like our running back room potentially. And even that, I think we're completely fine, but it's just funny how we ended up with only 5 there and just 2 picks through 115 at the position.
Yep. Anti-Kyron Williams, and this team's got a chance.
There it is. Hayden, you and Josh are always cranking out content on the Underdog YouTube. Let people know kind of what shows you guys have planned here coming up or what they should check out.
So we have all 4 positions ranked. That's already on the channel, and then we're taking a couple weeks off. When we come back, we're going to do the second year like tape evaluations. So Xavier Legette, a lot of the guys that we kind of just drafted here, just go back and see like what the hell happened. Like Roma Dunze is like the one I cannot wait to go back and like watch all of his targets and like even some of the ones where he wasn't targeted. Like what the hell happened? There's a bunch of those guys, including all the running backs you mentioned too. Like every single Blake Corum touch, I'll have eyeballs on. So that's gonna be like the first week when we come back, probably at the very end of the month after Memorial Day.
I'll be excited for that. Yeah, I feel like there's so many. You guys already did all the rookie dives, and now figuring out like how do we treat these second year guys is like one of the biggest riddles here as well. Appreciate it. Yeah, Tyler says been loving the content. Josh and Hayden have so much good stuff out over there. Hayden, appreciate you jumping on with me. I know you got a busy schedule and now juggling solo dad life here as well. So thanks for making the time, man.
No, absolutely. Anything for you. So peace, guys.
As far as for me this week, guys, the typical schedule, the ADP chasing guys will be back tomorrow going through the Underdog landscape. We'll have the Swolecast on off and on the clock. We're going to draft a sprint team tomorrow. We did Eliminator last week. We're going to check out the sprint. John is back from his little vacation. We'll have Lowell ship chasing. We're doing a dynasty little rookie mock draft this week if you guys are in the dynasty streets. But other than that, business as usual. Enjoy the drafts. Catch us in the Deposit Kingdom. Check out the Underdog channel with Josh and Hayden. Thanks to Pat and Leone. Thanks to the chat. Everyone hanging out. All you best ball sickos here. Happy Cinco de Mayo. We'll see you guys next time on Best Ball Breakfast.